I call the July 1st, 2025 City of Clermont Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Tidona?
Here.
Commissioner May?
Here.
Commissioner Colby?
Here.
Commissioner Nemec?
Present.
Commissioner Bain?
Here.
Commissioner Kramer?
Here.
And Commissioner Hoisington.
Here.
Okay, all 7 present. At this point, if you would please stand as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right, commissioners, you should have the minutes from the June 3rd, 2025 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? And if not, may I please have a motion?
I had corrections that were sent to Ray, and
Okay.
she made those changes.
Okay. So whoever makes that motion, just make sure you move to approve the amended minutes. Any motion on the floor for that?
I move to approve the amended minutes.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Colby,
I second.
seconded by Commissioner May. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. Minutes are approved 7-0. We will now move to reports, and we'll start this evening with Commissioner Colby.
I have no report.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemec.
No reports.
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer.
Before we begin tonight's agenda, I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on last meeting. I genuinely appreciated, again, the thoughtful engagement that my fellow commissioners, we had with my fellow commissioners during some of those more nuanced discussions. Even in the moments of disagreement, the tone remained respectful and focused on what's best for the city of Clermont. I also wanted to extend my thanks to our legal counsel, Mr. Christian Waugh. Your guidance helps us navigate complex decisions with clarity and confidence. I'm grateful for the steady hand you've been bringing to these proceedings, and I'm realizing how much you're the connectivity between us and council as you're really speaking often the words that we've said here for us. So I appreciate that. These conversations matter, not just for the applicants before us, but for the future shape of our community. And I'm proud to serve alongside this commission as we work together with integrity and purpose.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Hoisington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, I had the opportunity to attend the Board of County Commissioners' last 2 meetings on charter counties, both the agriculture and the one that was yesterday. If you have not had an opportunity to attend one of those meetings, I'm going to strongly suggest that you go online and look at the information. A lot of things are being discussed. Hopefully there will be additional meetings, maybe some in the different districts of the commissioners, so that everyone has an understanding of what the discussion is all about. But I learned a lot both of those meetings.
Thank you. Commissioner Tidona.
Good evening, everyone. Quick note, I will not be here for the August meeting. I will be on vacation. I do share the sentiments that I think our committee is gelling a lot more because we have a diversity of opinion. For myself, I'm still trying to focus on 3 priorities: overdevelopment, how it is turning into a life safety issue; conservation; and preserving Clermont's history. So I just want to take a moment, I've got handouts, to introduce like 2 awesome groups that I had conversations with. The first one is the Clermont's Women Club. Patty Miller is the president. Their schoolhouse, if you didn't know it, was built in the late 1880s, and it's actually one of the 2 buildings in Clermont's downtown that's on the National Historic Registry. So they get involved with different types of scholarship opportunities. They support many local charities, thank you. And they have an upcoming 2025 Fall Expo for businesses and vendors that I don't know if I can actually talk about that, but the paperwork is in there if you think you might be able to support them. The second organization is the Central Florida Plant Rescue Team, and these are volunteers that are associated with the Florida Native Plant Society. They go in and rescue native wildlife prior to a development going on. Lori Bennett Kimball is their lead point of contact. That information is in there. Their biggest hurdle is really connecting with developers prior to construction and having the permission to go onto a property to remove native plant life and actually preserve it and move it somewhere else where it will grow. So again, there's some information there. I've shared it with the City Council as well to see if it's something that we could help support them and support our native wildlife and foliage. Just 3 quick observations based on last week's City Council meeting. So a resident, granted a highly respected resident, was able to speak after public comment was closed and opined about traffic conditions on an agenda item. 2 council representatives wanted to hear what she said, but when a volunteer subject matter expert from the Planning and Zoning Committee wanted to provide additional code clarification, she was told to move away from the microphone. And unfortunately, no one from council said anything. So as much as we are gelling, there's still a lot of examples that this committee is just dismissed and disregarded. Property rights of the owner seem to supersede common sense development and ripples effects of traffic. Now, I understand neither one of them are qualifying factors in our comp plan or our design standards. But it looks to me that council is dragging their feet to update the plan or the codes, and developers are just consistently running rampant and taking advantage of what we have on the books. Supposedly, it only takes one council person that we voted for to ask for these 2 items to be placed on the agenda, voted on, and taken care of. Allegedly, there's an RFQ going out to get the process started, and hopefully that will take hold before we actually lose Clermont altogether. Third point, the council seemed to spend more time grilling a residential code change for a home office with 5 parking spaces than they did a 6.5-acre piece of property that they have absolutely no idea what's going on with. Albeit the applicant for the home office zone change wasn't totally forthright with the parking situation, but neither was the 6.5-acre property owner that didn't want to answer any questions. So I've actually put a little note to self: bring a famous land use attorney with you. In closing, I spoke to several environmental lawyers about overdevelopment, and they cited a bunch of Florida legislature bills that were passed that essentially favored developers. They're in your handouts. I mean, it's like shoveling poop against the tide. We've got a lot on our plate to try to get anything done. I mean, it just seems like everybody favors the developers. My last thing, coming from an emergency management background, I couldn't help but wonder during last Sunday's downpour, and I know we're in hurricane season, but it was not a hurricane, when flooding due to overdevelopment might be added to the list of life safety issues that already exist in Clermont. So seeing as evacuation, which is also a life safety issue, is practically impossible in Clermont, I hope that all of you know how to shelter in place. Thank you.
Commissioner May.
Thank you, and I want to thank Mr. Kramer for always bringing that up, and I appreciate the gelling, as John would say, among the commission members. So I appreciate him saying all that. John, thank you so much for all the information you always bring to the commission. And in regards to the resident that sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission, that was me. That was told to sit down, that I was not allowed to speak. So because of that, I wanted to go back to the section 101-282 that basically provides what we do. So in section 101-282, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall consider and make recommendations to the City Council on every rezoning and proposed amendment to the comp plan or the land development code. Recommendations on rezoning and future land use map amendments at the public hearing noticed as provided by and in section 101-381, while textual changes may be considered as a general item on the commission agenda. City Council shall consider the recommendations of the P&Z Commission before taking any action or proposed amendments to the Land and Development Code. even though we're not the final, but they do, should be looking at our recommendations. So what I would like to ask the city attorney or the city manager who's not here is if there is a way that allows the P&Z Commission to provide a summary or a summary report of our findings, because we're not able to provide them any minutes because we have to approve those minutes, but at least provide a summary that is added in the package on top of what the staff provides. Because I know the staff they have a lot of work on their plate, but it might be easier so that the questions that we have asked here are usually the same questions that the city council is asking. So there's a lot of repetitiveness, and it takes a long time for the answers. So I just wanted to see if there's a possibility so that a person like myself who is trying to help doesn't get told to back off by a certain person. So just wanted to ask.
Okay.
There is a way.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, I don't know if you want me to say more or if it's out of order, but I mean, yes, there is a way, and the board could discuss that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd be happy if you've watched the meetings, there's been a couple times, I think mostly by Councilmember Strange has asked me as chair to come up and present some information, particularly when we were going through the transition period where we weren't on television and weren't being recorded, but also before they have any minutes or information, particularly when our meeting falls right before a council meeting and there's not time in between. So I'd be happy to take that concern back to the city manager and ask for some guidance from the interim city manager and deputy city manager on how we could present that information with the city attorney to make sure that I don't think it's I don't think we would have the expectation that our minutes would always be available right away, but if we could have a summary and what I have done in the past in terms of a verbal summary, if we could do that in writing so they just had it automatically, would be a good thing. So I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would like to ask,
Yeah.
because every time I go to a city council, it's interesting to hear from the council people, that it was denied 6-1, but why?
Yeah.
So as long as they know, and then some of the specific questions or
Yeah,
requirements or
absolutely.
conditions.
Yeah, and I mean, I would also say that they too could watch or attend the meeting, so hopefully they will, and be able to participate in that way as well, so that they can see what's happening with their commissions and boards. But happy to work with the city attorney on that and the interim city manager. Let me just make a note. All right, and so for my report, happy Independence Day and 4th of July, everyone, on Friday. I hope everyone joins us at Waterfront Park, 5 to 9:30 for Red, White, and Boom, and the fireworks start at 9 o'clock. If you're concerned about parking, I just want to make sure folks do know there are shuttles available from 4:30 till 10 o'clock, free shuttles. The pickup sites and drop-off sites are the Clermont Arts and Recreation Center, Hiawatha National Preserve, West Park, and Park Powell. So those are the 4 locations. Plus, there's free parking at all of the city, downtown, central business district parking lots available for folks who would like to attend. So hope to see many people out. And hopefully the rain holds off for us, right? Second of all, today was supposed to be, I believe, the day that the interim city manager released the fiscal year 26 budget. As of right before this meeting, I didn't see anything online yet. And so I encourage commissioners to take a look at that. I think oftentimes we can see priorities as it relates to our commission and what we're doing and how the work that the city staff do and the resources they have available to them affects us and the work that we do. On that note, the city council will have 3, I believe, budget workshops coming up on Tuesday the 8th, Thursday the 10th, and Tuesday the 15th. I believe all of those are at 9 a.m. here in council chambers. Please check the website, the city's website, for more info and details. As a reminder in that respect, there's no council meeting next week. The only meeting in July is on the 22nd, and that's at 3 o'clock. And just as a reminder to the public that all city council meetings moving forward will be at 3 o'clock. I'm sorry, 3:30. Did I say 22nd?
Yeah, you said
29th.
26th.
Sorry, 29th. And it's at 3 o'clock. The county, as Commissioner Hoisington mentioned, the county did wrap up its growth management workshops. I think I attended 3 of the 4 that they had. The roundtable yesterday with all 14 municipalities. I was wondering who was in the secure bunker somewhere, given that all the city managers and all the mayors were all in one room together with our county commissioners. But the survey is still available online on the Lake County's website, and replays are all available as well. I think you'll find the information very interesting yesterday because it relates specifically to us and what we do in our joint planning agreements and our interlocal service boundary agreements and how those can be forged, and I guess maybe the intent behind what they're looking for in forging those. And I think that Groveland is the only one who has completed their new JPA with the county. So if you want to take a look at what they did, I believe that's available on their website as well. And then relative to what we're doing, and I don't know, City Attorney Wall, if you planned on talking about SB 180 in your presentation, or if you could just give a brief update, something that will affect not just us, but every municipality in the state.
Would you like me to talk about it now?
Were you planning on talking about it later as well, or?
No, but I mean, I'm happy to. I like
Yeah.
to hear the sound of my own voice.
Yes,
So,
absolutely, please.
So the legislature has passed and the governor has signed what is called Senate Bill 180. It does many things, but foremost among them, and most importantly for your purposes, is that it really puts the brakes on this city's ability to modify a lot of its comp plan or land development code. So for example, under the alleged reason or pretense, depending on what side you're on, of hurricanes, local governments are no longer, until 2027, going to be able to add more burdensome regulations all throughout your land development code, all throughout the comp plan. And there's a lot of questions about how that takes the shape if all you're doing is changing something, but it's not obviously more burdensome. So an example of something that would be more burdensome is more parking required for a certain kind of development. We did that actually. Clermont passed that. It's now invalidated under this legislation because it's retroactive to August 2024. But there's different types of changes you can have and that you may be interested in that don't appear more burdensome, but it's hard to tell sometimes. So for that, we might have to seek some kind of a declaratory judgment or advisory opinion. Frankly, I don't think it's clear. I'm not sure who the adverse party would be in such a filing, but that's the situation. We're looking at all the implications of it right now so that I can properly advise you. I don't think that it will halt the city's efforts in finding potential consultants and things like that for comp plan, land development code changes, but it will force us to consider what we're actually able to change and ultimately what we can pass under the auspices of this legislation. So that's it.
Thank you. And I encourage everyone, there are some great articles out there if you look at Googling Senate Bill 180. The 1,000 Friends of Florida has a great article. Lowndes, attorneys in land development have a great article out there. Florida Politics also has a pretty comprehensive piece of information that's available. And it will certainly have some effects. What exactly, we're still going to need to define and work out. But it could have some effects. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also a provision not only going back for 3 named storms, but any future potential hurricanes. It could also then go for another year beyond that if we're in a declaration or disaster declaration.
Yeah, so if in 2029, once we're past this 2027 deadline, there's another hurricane comes through Lake County, we're done for a year.
Yeah, so it could certainly have some effects on local control and local ability. So, all right, thank you. And we'll move now into new business, assuming, actually, let me go back. Attorney Wall, do you have any report?
No.
I know you have some agenda
We'll get
item
into
later.
it in item 4.
Okay. Any agenda changes? If not, we'll move right into the agenda. So for tonight, we have 4 items on the agenda. Item number 1 is resolution number 2025-013R, Clermont West Phase 2 Conditional Use Permit. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman Bain, John Cruz Development Services. This is agenda item 1, Clermont West Phase 2 conditional use permit. The applicant, Clermont West Investors LLC, is requesting the development the southern portion of a C2 general commercial zone parcel fronting on Hook Street, located south of Portillo's between Hobby Lobby and Ford of Clermont. The property is approximately 10 acres in size. And outlined in yellow on the display is the property that we will be discussing tonight. The applicant is proposing 2 hotels in the interior portion of the property, which would be here, up to 5 stories in height, with a maximum square footage of 70,000 square feet each, and a total of 250 rooms collectively. The southernmost portion of the property will consist of a stormwater pond and a 12,500 square foot daycare facility, and that would be here on the site plan, the conceptual site plan, stormwater pond and daycare. And an interior vacant lot, a little over an acre, is located here that has, could be accessed off Sandy Grove coming across. No user has been identified by the applicant at this time for the vacant lot. The applicant is required to seek a conditional use permit due to the proposed hotel building sizes over 20,000 square feet, shared parking between the hotels, and 2 special conditions. 1, to allow 0-foot internal landscape buffers between internal lot line, and 2, to allow a maximum grade within the perimeter landscape buffer up to 25%. Last year, the applicant previously applied for a similar project with hotel use, 3-story self-storage, and daycare use that was not approved by City Council, along with 6 special conditions. The applicant has revised the site plan while removing the self-storage component, reduced the number of special conditions, and shifted the stormwater around within the site. And this is a zoomed-in area that is being considered by the conditional use permit. Access from the site will be from the existing western driveway access point on Hook Street, serving the Ford at Clermont and this development. In addition, the site will be accessed from the existing State Road 50 entrance and Sandy Grove access point to the east. The secondary access point on Hook Street between the stormwater pond and the proposed daycare site has been acknowledged by Lake County and will warrant improvements along Hook Street as indicated in the traffic impact analysis review memo that was in your packet. Staff has reviewed the CUP application in accordance with Section 101.212 of the Land Development Code. With the revised changes, the project does not appear to conflict with the comprehensive plan. The future land use is commercial, and the proposed uses, particularly hotel use, is supported by Policy 1.9.3. The applicant has made some revisions to the original proposal to lessen the intensity along with other site changes that alleviate staff's concerns on the compatibility of the development in the area. In addition, with the revision of parking areas within the development, pedestrian safety appears to have been improved. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2025-013R. That concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, is the applicant here? If you would please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and present whatever materials you would like for the commission to consider.
Good evening. Corey Sittler with Kimley Horn and Associates. I'm the engineer for the project. 6876 Marwick Lane, Orlando, Florida. So a lot of you are probably very familiar with the project. We went through, as staff mentioned, went through here a year ago, worked with staff, city council, understood, listened to your concerns about the uses and the general layout of the site. Obviously made some changes, removed the self-storage, and now we're back. And just to highlight a couple key points that some of the new faces may not know about the site. We talked about the access into the site. I won't rehash those. As far as site layout goes, the hotels are really the driver for the site plan that we have. Really the priority there was to push them as close to the restaurants and as close to State Road 50 as possible. That's really what's going to drive their success in the development. And then also, provide more pedestrian connectivity between the hotel guests and the restaurants. And then also with this, you can see the daycare is kind of isolated in the southeast corner. It's basically between stormwater ponds and then 3 tiered retaining walls to the east. So very tucked away. Working with staff, we listened to the concerns about pedestrian safety and made modifications to the site plan, the concept plan that you see, to basically make that a priority with the daycare. As far as stormwater goes, there's an existing retention pond behind Phase 1 that we're proposing to relocate, as well as add an additional retention pond to the south along Hooks for the added development. And then lastly, just touching on the waivers really quickly, we're left with 2. Originally, we had 6, as John mentioned. The 2 that are left are the 0-foot landscape buffer, and that's really for us to be able to combine shared drive aisles between users and really reduce the amount of drive aisles that we need around the site, make it more cohesive of a development, and then also allow for us to be able to, draw lot lines in such a way where all the parking is contained within each respective lot. And then, the other waiver is the 25% grading within the landscape buffers. Really, that's in an effort to overcome the grading challenges that we have on the site. As most of you probably remember, this site was used to mine construction sand decades ago. So we're considerably lower than our surrounding properties. I mean, we're talking 10 to 25 feet in some areas. So requesting a 25-foot or a 25% grading within the landscape buffer to help overcome that. But we're open to the conversation to remove that and add walls if that's what everybody wants. But just open to have that conversation. So I'll stop there, and then happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Okay, thank you. Please just stick by. We'll open this up for public comments, and then we'll bring it back to the commission. This is the portion of the meeting for a public hearing on item number 1, resolution number 2025-013R, Clermont West Phase 2 conditional use permit. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? If so, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. Anyone else here? Seeing no one, we will bring it back to the commission. And before we have any questions relative to the commission, this is a little bit kind of jumping to some of what the attorney is going to talk about in the proposed rules and discussions is about disclosures. And I want to state for the record that the developer of this project did email me a year ago, August, after this came initially to the first time to Planning and Zoning Commission. And I wanted to make sure that I disclose that and you all are aware of that. Thank you, Brian. Okay. All right. And as a precursor, we'll talk more about that process and moving forward when we get to item number 4. So hearing no one in the audience, we'll bring it back to the commission, and we'll start with Commissioner Colby.
Thank you. I like the revisions. I think you heard what was said before, but I'm just really trying to understand that this connectivity and the grade. Are you looking to have very steep trails, or is there going to be stairs? Like how is this gonna? Yeah, like I'm just trying to understand.
Are you talking specifically for pedestrians or sidewalks?
It was stated by Mr. Cruz and yourself, trying to connect with the restaurants and that type of thing. So I'm just really trying to get my head around the connectivity. How do you do that?
So really, the steep grades are to the east and the west of us. In terms of the grade change from Phase 1 to Phase 2, it's not nearly as severe as you're probably thinking. I mean, we're talking about a few feet over the entire site. So it's definitely manageable to maintain ADA grading along the sidewalks.
So
it's really not going to be that big of a grade change from phase 1 to phase 2.
Okay, and so walking paths would be
Correct.
sufficient for the
Yep.
connectivity?
And it's a little hard to see on the camera, but the site plan that you have tried to highlight, the sidewalks in phase 1 and then connecting into phase 2. Yeah. Oh, you got it right there. Yeah, in the PDF copy, it's a little bit easier to see, but we tried to highlight the sidewalks that are built in phase 1 and how that's going to connect into phase 2.
Okay, I mean, it's a great concept, I was trying to
Sure.
understand that. So, so you believe that this will be walkable for people that are staying here and
Yes, yep, that's the intent. I mean, really, whenever we're talking to the hotel developers, they love being right next to restaurants. I mean, that's one of the key marketability factors for this site is that you have four restaurant users that are very popular and very well known, and guests are going to be able to easily walk between phase 1 and 2.
Right, and I was just trying to understand like the landscaping around here. It looks like it's hard to, to get all the concept from here, but
Sure.
it looks like you're trying to put nicely landscaped greenery around the hotel buildings.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's going to be something that we're going to talk a little bit more once we have specific users. But yeah, the idea is that there's going to be enhanced landscaping around the hotel. I mean, they each have their own tenant-specific standards to highlight that. But yes, that is the intent.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nemec.
I'd like to thank you for making your revisions from last time you were up here. I would like to start off with that. I actually have a question for staff, Mr. John Cruz. For the record, verbally, I know it's in the packet we have. This is not going to be an extended stay hotel, correct?
Correct.
What stops it for the future? Let's say, I'm not done yet, John. What states in the future, if the hotel decides not making the profit it wants, of going to an extended stay hotel? Okay, could you answer that question? I already think I know it, but I want to be sure for the record.
There is a condition in the conditional use permit that it defines extended stay. And if they want to modify that amendment, they would have to come back to City Council on Planning and Zoning
For approval.
for approval, correct?
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, I guess for the applicant now. You answered that question perfect, John. That's what I thought. I just wanted it on the record. Dumpsters. I don't see any place for dumpsters for garbage. I mean, I know it's a short stay. I know that it's not a hotel with a bar and a restaurant, but I'm sure that.
So right now,
Do you realize what I have here, right? I had to take out my magnifying glass. to look
I
at
know,
this. You
I
see
know.
that,
I'm sorry.
right?
I don't know if we can zoom in any further, but oh, is it? There you go.
Jesus. Sorry. Oh, okay, so it's going, it's taking, I thought they were parking spots, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right,
So,
'cause you don't wanna
so
know what
we're
it looks like
showing-
on
We're
mine.
showing dumpsters right here and
Perfect.
then, right over
And there's
here
two
by
for the
daycare.
bottom? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and I guess those little drawings on it are handicap for the ADD, so that
Correct.
answers those questions. Okay, I also noticed that you got beautiful rendered pictures of the hotel, but I didn't see any for the daycare center. Is there a reason for that?
I think we're still discussing with a few different groups for the daycare, so that hasn't been nailed down by this point, but we do know that it is going to be a daycare use, which is why we're showing it on the site plan.
I'm not saying you're gonna do a bait and switch, but are you gonna prepare that for the council in 2 weeks? Or 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Is that-
I think at
Right,
this
so-
point, it is worth noting that the daycare is actually an approved use under the C2 zoning, so I'm not sure that that's a requirement for this. I don't know, I
No.
don't think that those will be ready by city council. I guess
Okay,
is my
I'm
answer.
sorry, I'm not saying it's a requirement, sir, so please don't think I'm implying
Okay.
that. I'm saying that since you volunteered to give a render picture of the hotel, I would like to see what the daycare center looks like, okay? Like, for example, I mean, I showed you what I'm looking at, all right? I'm assuming, but you know what that means. The green area is their playground.
That's
Am I right
correct.
by saying that?
That's correct.
And the building itself is the white.
Yes.
And how many children do you see? Well, you can't answer that question yet.
I can't answer that at this point, yeah.
Okay.
I will say, the reason that we showed this on the site plan is really to show the intent of the entry point into the daycare.
Okay.
And how, really the point of that is to highlight the pedestrian safety aspect of it. Originally, we had the daycare rotated,
Yeah,
so that
I
it
know.
was.
Yeah, you would have
So
to.
that, yeah, exactly. So
remember.
now the entrance is facing to the north. It's gonna be off the main thoroughfare through the project. So that's really the intent of us showing that on the site plan.
Yeah, because I read that in the packet that pretty much you stated that there was going to be a drop-off. So what are the parents going to do? Park their car?
Yes.
You don't have a canopy, that's why I'm asking.
That's correct,
I believe
yes.
last one you did have a canopy or something like that effect where you drove around.
No, there's not going to be any type of porte
Okay,
cochere
all right.
or drop off or anything like that. They actually have to physically escort their children into the daycare center.
Okay. Phase 1 and Phase 2 is from the same owner, correct? I'm assuming.
Correct.
I just wanted for the record. Okay, question, I don't know if this is for you, you probably can answer it. You see the road at the entry point on facing Ford, the dealership? Okay, you see where you're coming out? Now, I take that road even now, that's a very dangerous 90-degree turn, all right? My question is, actually it might be to staff, what happened if Ford decides to, who owns that road? Is that Ford's property or is that county property?
Based on the drawing, it looks like it's a joint ownership of the drive, and I do not have any easements in the packet. We normally don't ask for easements in terms of this, but a lot of the commercial development, they have cross-access easements in place. And again, this is something that was designed, it's being used. So if Ford decides to do that, that's more of a legal question.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about because, I mean, Ford's always expanding. Since I've been in the P&Z for 7 years, they expanded twice already, and they actually refurbished their development. And I'm just curious because that's a main point entry. That road goes down, that was shut down. I mean, then they go through legal things and everything. Would this gentleman like to say something? Please state your name and address. I'm sorry to do your job. I didn't
No.
say that. I always want to say that.
You can say it. Ryan Stahl, the applicant, 630 South Maitland Avenue, Maitland, Florida. There is actually an easement that is in place.
Oh, okay.
When we purchased the property, we went through that and actually discovered that we were concerned too, but that easement was there before we purchased the property.
Okay, smart. Very good. Okay, I'm really concerned about your grade change. Back to you, all right? That is, I mean, from Portillo's, Longhorn, Barbecue, Mission, going straight down to what? All right, I'm sorry. So did I say it wrong, Ms. May? Mission Barbecue? All right, well, I'm from New York, I say things back and forth. All right, that is a steep grade, that's all I'm saying. I'm just concerned. Right now, there's a retention pond there.
That's correct.
Okay, it's on the top. So you're telling me these two retention ponds are the same or equal size as the one that you're replacing, that you're putting the hotels on?
They're larger.
They're larger?
Yes,
Okay,
because
that's where
it's-
I was getting at.
Yeah, correct, because we have to provide enough retention for this existing development with phase one, plus all the future development for phase two. So they're sized according to that.
That was my question. And my final question for now is pretty much to the staff. I'd asked this 3 times, Mr. Cruz, and I hate that you're the only person here, because I really want to ask the director, okay? I'm very concerned. When you send a package to us, you're giving us a package that's not updated, okay? It's not huge, sir, so please don't take it personally. Your office is sending a package, and I believe your answer was, not yours, but Planning and Zoning's answer was, we don't have updated software, okay? It's just funny that a citizen can go on Google Maps and show the full size of a parking lot, so we could determine what we have to, could show the restaurants, the 3 restaurants, and show a lot more concrete than Barren Woods. So once again, I would like to put it on the record that I'm requesting that we get planning and zoning updated software, so you could update your aerial maps for us, so we can make a decisive decision. Sorry, staff, I didn't mean to do that to you, John, but I just want to state that for the record. No other questions for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you. So while this site's large and it's mixed use, I'm concerned about the 0-foot internal landscaping buffer. Even a minimal buffer adds visual relief, supports a stormwater filtration, and sets consistent development standards. So can the applicant explain the practical need for 0-foot buffers between the parcels, and is this about constraints or about cost?
Well, I guess really it's in an effort to provide a more cohesive mixed development. I mentioned before that if we have to provide the landscape buffers between the lot lines, as an example,
Please.
along this future parcel here, we would need a separate landscape buffer and then a separate drive aisle and then parking attached to that drive aisle. So it's a way for us to be more efficient with the site plan. Allows us to propose less impervious on the site overall, and then also gives us a little bit of flexibility. The daycare is a good example here, where we can draw the lot lines in a way where the parking is completely on the daycare site. So they're not having to worry about, if they have to maintain these parking spots or this drive aisle or anything. They don't have to worry about, going on somebody else's property. There's going to be access easements throughout the whole property, so that wouldn't be an issue, but just speaking hypothetically here, gives us a little bit of flexibility and allows us to be more efficient with our site plan.
Okay. John, has staff seen similar buffer waivers in recent developments? And if so, what was the outcome?
Yes, there have been. For example, if you look up to the existing development, really all they have is the drive, the islands between them. Also, for example, between the former Red Lobster and Olive Garden, it's 2 restaurants, parking islands, but there's no landscape internal line between them. That is a request for some of these larger developments to do. Even recently, the Plaza Colina, the front pods, that was one of the requests as well. So it's not uncommon. It's just a request that they have to make and council has to grant if they feel that's desirable at that location.
Thank you, John. Over to the 25% grade. That's a significant grade for landscaping, and steep slopes can create a long-term maintenance issue. It limits the ability for plants to grow and their survival and reduce the effectiveness of screening. So will this slope be stabilized and maintained by the property owner, or is that going to be the city's responsibility?
That'd be maintained by the Property Owners Association.
Okay. And is there a precedent for allowing this kind of slope in other perimeter buffers, John?
Usually this occurs when the property's been previously altered, such as to the north here along the Ford dealership. It's something that was granted, I believe, for that as a variance outside of conditional use permit, but they're dealing with an altered site that was an old mine. So it's something that's more site specific in terms of what they're dealing with when they acquire the site. Hopefully that answers your
It
question.
does, thank you. Again, reminding of the old mine site, so. It's always tricky to approve projects with a key portion of it unassigned. So without a defined user, we risk approving a plan that might change significantly later or sit vacant for an extended period of time. So do you have any potential users in negotiation for that 1.12 acre parcel?
Not at this time. I can tell you that it would be a use that's allowed within the C2 zoning. I can't imagine somebody would come in here and try to rezone that specific parcel, and they'd be required to meet all the codes for parking, landscaping. They'd essentially be self-sufficient within their parcel,
So are
with
there
the
any
exception of stormwater.
Are there any conditions that, or limits that we can place on the range of uses? I'm asking John, is there any conditions we can put on that, or do we stay within the existing ones?
Currently in the conditional use permit, it does say that any allowed permitted C2 uses. Due to the size of the site, you're kind of limited to what
Okay.
potentially could go there. But again, it's not something you couldn't recommend that. You can do a list of prohibitions, but again, it's really dependent on the end user if they can make that site work for them.
Thank you, John. Shared parking makes sense on paper, but if ownership of the hotels ever splits or operations grow, we could see unintended consequences. We need to ensure that the parking arrangement remains a viable long-term. So my question is there a formal shared use agreement for parking recorded between the hotel parcels?
Ryan Stahl again. Yeah, we will have, actually, we have an existing one right now for the 4 parcels on the north side. It's CC&Rs is what they're referred to as. That same document will actually extend down, and so the hotels will be part of that as well. That provides for cross-access, cross-maintenance, and all that's defined. It's basically set up that if somebody is not maintaining their parcel, the adjoining parcels have the ability to go notify them, and in the event that that particular owner chooses to ignore them, the other owners can actually come in and fix it and then turn around and bill them for that.
Okay.
So all that is actually provided for in the CC&Rs.
Thank you. John, will the city retain the ability to revisit parking adequacy if either hotel expands or changes use?
If they end up expanding, they would, depending on the current parking code at that time, if they would need additional parking, they would either have to come back and amend this. But this is locked down in terms of the square footage of the hotels. So any amendment, if they go outside of what would be allowed in the conditional use permit, would come back to you for consideration.
Wonderful. Anytime a daycare is adjacent to a stormwater infrastructure and an active roadway, it's our duty to take a hard look at safety. So both traffic-related and environmental. So I want to know, is there adequate stacking space for parent pickup and drop-off without spilling out onto Hook Street?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this isn't your typical, pull up and drop off. They actually have to park, get out of the car, and then escort their child into the facility. We have enough parking, per code for this. I would say there's, just speaking realistically here, there's a lot of overflow parking into the hotels if there ever was a huge need during a drop-off period. But as how I understand these daycare facilities work, and this may be user dependent, but it's more of a scheduled drop-off, so you'll have a drop-off time, which kind of staggers drop-offs over a certain hour or 2-hour period. But again, that could be dependent on the user, but some of the users that we've discussed with, that's kind of their operating procedures.
So staying with the daycare, will there be barriers between the daycare and the stormwater pond, and could you elaborate a little bit on that?
So these, we're still in the engineering design of these ponds, but they'll likely have a lot of walls, namely this large pond here is likely going to have a retaining wall on this north side and east side, which is required to have fencing. So there will be some sort of fencing between the daycare facility and the stormwater pond. Yes.
Okay. So I appreciate the revisions that you've made. Right now, I'm a little uneasy about approving a conditional use permit that reduces landscape buffers to 0, but you've made some good points, so I'll take that under consideration. And concerns, I still have concerns about the steep grading. Without a committed user for the retail lot, we may end up with a fragmented site that lacks some cohesion. So I'm going to listen to the rest of the commission here before I make my decision, but I appreciate, I was not on planning and zoning when you came here the first time, so I appreciate that. I can see the work that you've done, and I see that you've impressed some of the other commissioners with the work you've done. So I'm going to sit back for a little bit now and continue to make my decision, but I appreciate the hard work you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoisington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any real questions because my fellow commissioners have asked some excellent questions, things that were also on my mind. The only thing that really concerns me is the piece of property that's not designated. Like, we're going to approve something now that does not have a designation on what will be there. And when there's a decision to put something there, how is it going to change the whole outlook of the area? And will you come back before us asking for special conditions? And how is that going to impact traffic? And just those things that concern me. But the questions that were asked have answered a lot of questions that I had. And I thank staff for putting this together and for you coming back and making those changes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tedona.
Thank you. So a lot has happened in a year. I wasn't here last year either. I know that right next door to you, there's a huge self-storage going nearby. So the one you took after your property is right next door. Thank you about educating a little bit about the landscaping plan, that there will be something forthcoming. Hopefully we could do something to replace some 200 trees that are just going to be absolutely decimated. Piggybacking on those changing conditions, one has to wonder, in the past year with the explosive growth that Clermont has seen and that our infrastructure is already teeming at the seams, what this is going to add to that problem. One of the things I don't think is ever in a package, and yes, I know it's not part of a comp plan or not part of a code, is human nature. And I've been to Portillo's. I get my car worked on at Tuffy's, and I know for a fact that I can come off of 50, come through Portillo's, go through that back way to pull into Tuffy's, which means that once this is built, I could come off of 50 and go through the parking lot and go to the hotel, which means I've also got multiple directions where I'm coming into the hotel, dropping off the kids, maybe coming back out to that street, and then going into, not Home Goods, Hobby Lobby. So I guess one of my biggest concerns is that what we're creating here is another parking lot similar, and it's a lot smaller and just as dangerous, over by Culver's and Bob Evans, where you've got this little winding road that comes in across from Walmart, and I can go anywhere I want. There's nothing that stops me from making a wide turn to go to Culver's or slow down coming out of Bob Evans. So that, to me, is a huge concern. Thank you for answering the question about the stormwater drain, because I was prepared to ask if there was going to be fencing around the stormwater pond and around so this way we keep the kids out of the daycare from wandering off, the playground from wandering off. So any deterrent is, thank you for that. All right. When I was going through the packet, I had asked John, and I thank John very much for the traffic survey. So a couple of things that just came out that I thought were kind of interesting. You've got this one page, I don't have the page number, but it says the data obtained was from the latest Lake County CMP database from 2021 and Florida DOT District 5 2010 Urban Area Boundary and Federal Functional Classification Map for Lake County. So maybe I'm nitpicking, but it's in the fine print that some of this data is a little outdated. And then what I really got a kick out of, to me, it was almost like that expression of jumbo shrimp, was number 5. The project does not have a significant impact. However, road segments within 1 mile of the project site shall be evaluated. So I went to your page. Interestingly enough, and credit to my fellow commissioner, Vin Nemec, this picture in your packet is dated from May 2025. But you don't pick up the 6 apartment buildings that are here. It just looks like an empty lot. And this is one of those things that this committee has asked for something accurate, because I'm looking at an empty lot. It's just that I know that there are 6 Queen Mary apartment buildings sitting there that weren't picked up. Your 1 mile radius is in the water, and it stops at the intersection of Excalibur Road and Hooks Road. It stops right there. So if I'm going by what you've said as your disclaimer, you might not be picking up that intersection. And one of my fellow commissioners used the perfect word for it: spill out. So anybody who knows that area and who knows that turn knows that there are 2 schools here. And schools have scheduled drop-offs too. They drop off their kids in the morning and then they pick them up in the afternoon. And you don't want to be anywhere near that area, because you're not going anywhere, because the cars back up and take up a lane on Hooks Road. So I can only imagine with that daycare center, with people coming from all different areas, and you have absolutely no room to maneuver in there, you're not going to have, hopefully, hopefully I'm wrong, an orderly drop-off process. You're going to have people waiting all over the place. So back to your map, I did go to a website called Calc Maps, and I understand about GPS and GIS, and everything is a little off because of longitude and latitude and all that stuff. It makes for a great excuse. But my 1 mile radius took the intersection, the school parking lot, and half of those 6 apartment buildings, where even if we said there's 300 apartments, that's 300 more cars. So that's a huge concern to me. In our code, we talk about sites that already exist under review criteria, 101-2.84. And I could tell you that there's already a hotel with a daycare right down the block from where I live. So, which means we've already got something that already exists. And I don't know, maybe it's a New York thing, but having a hotel where I could sit and watch over a daycare center just doesn't like sit well with me, but anyway, that's just me. And then we have in our review criteria that we have to, development code are adequate to ensure compatibility with adjoining properties. You made a comment that hotels like restaurants. Well, there's only like 2 or 3 there. So unless I'm booking a room to go get my oil changed or make a sale at Hobby Lobby, it's not like you are in downtown of anything. I mean, you're going to a Ford dealership, you go, there's, I don't know, again, it's just me. If I was going to market this, that you're going to Restaurant Haven like downtown Disney, this is not the space, because you're only either going to get a hot dog or a barbecue. But that, again, that's just me.
I really just wanted to jump in to clarify something
Sure.
that you said. You just cited 2 things in the code, but those both have to do with comp plan amendments. So the actual criteria for what we're talking about here on the CUP is in section 101 dash, and this is what you have to consider, not the other criteria. It's 101-212 subsections C and D. And I think you might still get there when you look at the elements. I just, for the record, I want to direct you there.
Cool. Because in 101, section 212C4, there is it says something about desirability of location. So then I'll stick with what I said before, to put a couple of hotels in the middle of a Ford dealership and where I can go get a hot dog doesn't sound like it's something desirable. If this was downtown Disney, or if this was somewhere located between the hospital and the college, where the college could use it as a recruitment type of an area, or if my mom had a heart attack while she was down here as a snowbird, I got a place to go visit mom while she's in the hospital. So I agree with you. Section 101, 212C4, again, might not be exactly compatible. It might not even be compatible or desirable next to a daycare center. So I'm really concerned. I get hammered for talking about traffic, so let's talk about infrastructure and safety issues. You're just going to have a lot of volume in this area. We already know that on Hooks Road, since you're doing so much with grading of stuff, right by Lowe's, depending on both directions when you come at come down Hooks, where that road either goes down or comes up, there's a blind spot. And if you're not paying attention when you go to make that left into Lowe's, you're going to T-bone somebody. And that's with existing conditions. We also don't see the piece of property that's across the street from this that's already being developed as well. I don't know what's coming there, but again, you're going to have just a lot of, I can't say traffic, so let me say potential life safety issues happening within that 1 mile radius. So I really don't have any questions. As I said, on a positive note, thanks for talking about landscaping and thanks about talking about the fencing, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner May.
Okay, there we go. I did 3 times. Okay. Some of the questions, some of the answers I have here, so I'll have to skip around on these. So phase 1, phase 2, and I'm assuming phase 3, which is across the street, that is all owned by this gentleman, correct? The Clermont West Investors LLC?
So the southern piece is technically a different owner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I would just want to get clarity on that. So it's just phase 1 and phase 2?
Correct. These are the only 2 phases.
Perfect, okay. In phase 1, for commercial restaurants, we only have 3 right now. I'm assuming Bonefish Grill is coming in that corner. I don't think I've seen it yet. I've been to Portillo's, I've been to Longhorn, and I've been to Missions Barbecue, and thank you very much for bringing those to our city. I appreciate that. Is the 4th one coming? Is that 4th one? I'm just.
This one up here?
Yeah, and the reason why I'm bringing that up, I know it's a different phase, but it's because of parking, and that's the only reason why I'm asking. So all that parking,
Something will be going there. What, that hasn't been
what
determined.
we just don't know if it's Bonefish,
we
okay.
just don't know yet.
Okay, but that was just what it was planned last year. I wasn't on the commission last year, but I did read a lot, and a lot of the newspapers, Orlando Sentinel and Gross Spotters, so I've been following a lot of the news on this. And I do want to disclose that I do drive on this site all the time because I do frequent Hobby Lobby and I do go to Portillo's and I do that. So I know this site very well. So we have the I guess, all the parking requirements that are already done for phase 1. And it's just a lot of parking. So my issue here is on the access points. And I'm just comparing it to other plazas or shopping centers that we call it here in Clermont. So for me, this Sandy Grove Avenue access, you literally just drive past Tuffy's and then you literally just jump into a parking lot. And it just continues to drive through parking lots and parking lots. There's really not a dedicated roadway. And I can give you an example of that. I know you're not from Clermont, but you know, there's where the Home Depot is. You go from 50 onto Home Depot in the middle access there, and you can either go right to left, but there's actually another road that doesn't drive into a parking lot. It's literally a driveway that can take you from, and that to me is more cohesive in a sense, instead of driving through a parking lot where someone's pulling out, somebody's walking to their car, I'm stopping, and it's happening right now a lot at the Crossridge where the Swigs is, and there's a lot of problems there, and I can see some of the issues are going to happen here because there's no dedicated lane for the inflow and the outflow of cars. And Publix is another one off at, what is it, Kings Ridge. Publix, they also have a dedicated road in the back. So if you drive in, there's a dedicated road and you can spill into a parking lot. You can go to the shopping center to the right where the Publix is. You can keep going down this driveway. Boom, you go to the right, there's parking for Publix. You keep going, you can go to the left to the supermarket. You can go to the gas station, left to McDonald's. But there's that road that moves the traffic. So you don't have to wait. Because for me, I'm just dealing with Swigs right now. I go from BJ's into Crossridge, and I have to stop every time because somebody's backing out of the parking space between BJ's and Swigs, and then somebody coming out of Swigs, and it's just a mess. It's a mess, and I can just see it here. I'm just seeing it. And this is a lot of bodies and parking and cars. It's a lot. So I have an issue with that. So you're saying that it's going to be a cohesiveness because of this zero lot, what is it, this allow 0-foot internal landscape buffers? So I think my fellow Commissioner Kramer, I think, is probably visualizing that same issue when he brought it up. And so that's where my issue is in regards to allowing you to have these 0-foot internal landscape buffers. There has to be some separation. I know you want to do the cohesiveness, but the cohesiveness, there's just got to be one kind of internal roadway that connects from access, the Sandy Grove Avenue to the Ford exit. So that's an issue there. Let's see here. In the last P&Z Commission, your project was denied, and a lot of it was, most of the concerns on that was on the pedestrian safety, and I think you've heard that a lot here, and I think you have brought up that you've taken care of the pedestrian safety by, I guess, adding these pedestrian access. I think what it says here on the plan, there's brown, where the brown is. It says pedestrian, I can't read it, it's so small. But it says pedestrian access to the right on the legend in the brown. What does that say there?
Proposed pedestrian access.
Right,
You're
so
correct.
proposed pedestrian access. So what is that, what the previous commission was asking? Because I think what they were asking was a pedestrian walkway. So is that supposed to be the same? Or is that, because for me, a pedestrian walkway is considered, for example, Winter Garden Village. So in Winter Garden Village, they have parking in different sections. They have roads, an access point that separates the two different areas of the big shopping plaza. But they also have a pedestrian walkway that's large. I mean, it's about, I would say, 10 feet. You got trees, it's beautiful. That takes people from, say, from Target or from, what else is over there? Old Navy, Ross, takes them to the other side of the garden, of the Winter Gardens Village. So that's what I see as a pedestrian walkway. So I'm just, for me, this just looks like sidewalks. So I just don't know how this is all interchanging, because I just don't see how. I mean, I'm looking at this plan again. So I see the two hotels. I see this brown line. So if you go with the finger, is this brown line the walkway, and then where does it?
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a crosswalk to cross the drive aisle.
Right, but does it continue?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so-
So all these sidewalks in phase 1 are built, and these are actually located in landscape islands. So it's kind of doubling as the parking lot landscaping, but also also adjacent to the sidewalk. So you will have landscaping on along both of these main thoroughfares from Phase 2 to Phase 1,
Okay.
which is already out there. Really, we're just providing a plan to access that to get
There's
to the
actually
restaurant.
sidewalks there? Because I haven't seen those.
Yes.
I've parked
These
there
are-
and I haven't seen any of that.
These are constructed.
And how big are those sidewalks?
I believe they're 6 feet.
Yeah, they just, I honestly, I've been, like I said, I've been to Portillo's and all that, and I have never seen, I mean, when I see a sidewalk, I'm assuming it's, pretty, just like, when you go into Winter Gardens and you see the trail, I mean, it's not supposed to be a bike trail, but it's large enough where people can walk and, maybe having a main one in the middle with trees, just, not so many of these little tiny sidewalks. I haven't seen them, so I apologize. I'm glad you're showing it to me on the plans here. So you're saying the daycare is already planned. You don't know who or the daycare it is. I know Goodard School was one of the ones that was going to be there in the past, but they've kind of said no, I guess, I'm assuming. Hopefully they are, it's a good school, but my concern with the daycare that some of the other folks have brought up is putting a daycare next to a hotel. I mean, I know it's a little bit further, but passing by the one by the rec center, you have a daycare that's right next to a hotel, and somebody on that 4th floor is looking down at the playground, even though this playground is to the front. But that's another question that I'm going to have as well. Let's see. You stated in the last P&Z meeting that you would work with staff on pedestrian safety, so you guys did that, parking, and the addition of a southern access point. So is that the,
That's here.
okay, but that was already planned from the last one. There was always,
I don't believe we showed it in the first rendition of this at the last P&Z.
Okay.
But that has been,
so that's the
that
added
has
one.
since been added, yes.
All right.
Connectivity to hooks.
Okay, so you had 6 conditions in the past. You're trying to remain the 2, which allows for the 25% perimeter buffer, which I have an issue with on that, due to the fact of maintenance and, of course, growing any trees, and that's going to lead me into the other question. What are we doing about the 200, you said 200? The 200 trees that are on this property? Because right now, what I see is the retention pond, which I believe is a dry retention pond, based on what it says on the plans. Is there any mitigation, or is there a tree survey that you all have done to let us know those trees, which are pines, are preferred trees, and if they are they going to be mitigated or replaced?
So as you mentioned, I was going to point out more of the species of the trees. So this being used for utility, this property being used for more utility purposes decades ago for construction. The pines were planted by a previous owner for agricultural purposes. These are pine trees. These are not considered a preferred species.
But do you have a survey that says that they're not preferred trees?
I guess I'll turn it over to the city attorney on what they define as preferred trees. But
Well, there is a
I
list
can-
of preferred trees within
Right.
our section, so I was just wondering, how do they know if it's a preferred
if
tree or not?
If that's something that you wanted to add as a condition for us to verify that, we do have landscape architects in-house that can verify species of trees and verify that they are on the list of preferred trees or not. But,
Okay. Because I would be asking that condition as well, because we do have 200 trees, and I'm starting to see a lot of Clermont becoming an asphalt city, and we have to start preserving what we have. If it's a preferred tree, then you have to fall under section, section 123. That has to be all applied. If they have to be removed because of the retention ponds, I think there's places where you can replace them, or is there a fee? I guess there's fees that are added for the removal of preferred trees. So, all those rules have to fall in. So I definitely would like to have a condition in regards to section 123 on the trees, especially having a tree survey. We don't know, you don't know if it's a preferred tree, we don't know it's a preferred tree. I would like to, make sure it is or it isn't, and that it's properly removed or not. So, let's see here, parking, there is a discrepancy on this ordinance, just, John, there's, on the page 10, you have 10.61 acres, but on the plans, you guys are basing your parking on 11.15 acres. So which acreage is it? Because if you look at the plans, it says, like on the open space requirements, it's 20%. So based on 11.15 acres, it's 2.23 acres.
So the parking space, just to clarify, the parking spaces are more based on the use rather than the total property area.
That I know.
But the discrepancy, I believe, comes from this section right here,
Okay.
from the property appraiser. It's technically in phase 1, but it's part of this conditional use.
Okay.
So that's
Got it.
the
I've
discrepancy there.
kind of thought about that, but I wasn't sure. So, but yes, you're right in regards to the hotels. I understand that. You got one space per key. You have, 30 employees to 3. I mean, it's daycare, 8,400 square feet divided by 300 square feet. I understand the whole parking. You went from 313 spaces previously now to 319 spaces, which is interesting because you had another use. There you had 2 hotels, a daycare, a self-storage, and you were asking for 313 spaces. But here we have 2 hotels, a daycare, and we're asking for 319. So I just don't understand how it went up with less use. Yeah. So,
It's more of a function of when you take out the self-storage, you don't need a loading zone anymore. You basically replace that with parking along this pond here. So
so more parking.
That's where it came from.
So more black steel. Okay, more asphalt. Got it. We got a lot of asphalt on here. Let's see. You talked about the shared parking cross-access agreement. Thank you very much. That was one of my questions. And then previously there was a landscape plan when you came back, back in, I guess, July 2nd of 2024. We don't have a landscape plan in this one. Just asking why.
So I think at least our intent was, since we highlighted all of these green space areas, it was more to show the intent of where the landscaping would be installed, rather than update a landscape plan that's not really a design landscape plan, since that's going to be reviewed later during the site plan process. So this was really just to show the intent of where the landscaping is going to go, and it was a little more visually appealing in this type of setting.
So are you putting landscaping around the retention ponds? I mean, they're green. I mean, it's green. I think it's part of the
So
open
there's
space.
going to be landscaping definitely on the frontages here and here. And then any landscaping that's required for parking islands and things will be along the north side.
Okay, so again, I would love to, Mr. Chairman, just a condition in regards to requiring a tree survey.
And when we come to the motions,
And to-
if you
I
want to
just
make
wanted
that.
to let
Yep.
you know that, okay. Let's see if there's anything else that I have, because a lot of you guys have already asked the same questions. No, I think we're it. I still have issues with the 0-foot internal landscape buffers. I have issues with the in and out, coming in and out of the, I'm just seeing a lot of cars and a lot of people just backing out and backing in, and a lot of traffic. And in regards to the daycare, not having a drop-off, wow. I have children. I've been to Montessori schools, small schools like this. I've been to big ones as well. The having to find parking and then having to take your child, especially during the rain. Oh my goodness, no drop off. I know you guys don't like the drop off, but a mother likes drop offs. I don't know. There's no win-win on this one. It is in the conditions here that says the daycare shall require students to be escorted in by an adult with no unescorted drop-off to pick up by policy. So I'm still trying to figure out how that's going to work, especially in a rainstorm. And then the other question is the playground on a busy street. I have some issues there. I know the grading, I believe, is going to be 25%, right? Grade, I just.
Not in the playground.
Okay, so
Not in the playground.
I just can't, I just, driving down,
The
looking
playgrounds
at
are
it.
gonna be flat.
Yeah, so that's my issue. I just, someone texting, driving drunk, something, just driving into that playground for me is, I'm still kind of questionable on that. So just want to make those comments, and I think I am done, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm just making a note. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. I'm not going to belabor some of the points that were already made, but I do appreciate the fact that I think the last time you guys were here, we only had 4 of the 7 commissioners present. So having 7 here hopefully vets this and has more conversation and gets more information out there than maybe what we had the last time. I just want to clarify a couple of points. Talked about trees and mitigation. Mr. Cruz, can you talk a little bit about what's currently required for a conditional use permit and by code what the city requires for tree and tree mitigation and any kind of restoration or fees?
Yes, the way it works is a survey would be done on the trees on site, but they have to be preferred trees. In this case, it was a mine. It was planted for agricultural uses, so the question really remains, were they placed there for a specific use, for agricultural use, and not removed, maybe for soil erosion purposes? So I can't really answer that question at this point in time. We would have to look into it further, but they would do the tree survey, then they would identify, say there were 100 trees, 3 inches each, that's 300 inches that they would have to replace with. And the way they come up with the estimate is they have to provide staff with a verifiable receipt from a landscaper showing the cost of the tree, the cost of installation, and a 1-year warranty on that tree.
Okay.
So it could be, depending on supply and demand, what type of tree, as long as it meets our parameters of 12 foot high, 6 feet wide, 3-inch caliber. If it's on the preferred tree list, then we can take it. So depending on what tree selection and the number, the fee can vary all over the place.
So, but what really starts all of that is the tree survey. So
Right.
if we wanted
The
to
tree
include as a
survey.
condition a survey,
Right.
in order to figure out any of that, to find
Right.
out what mitigation, if any, would need to be based off of preferred trees versus non-preferred
Right,
trees.
that
The
is
survey
correct.
is the starting point. Okay. With regard to the Sandy Grove, and I'm not sure if, Mr. Cruz, if this is going to be for you or maybe the applicant, I think Commissioner May brought up a point with relation to coming in off of Sandy Grove and not driving directly into where people park. And it looks as though as you're coming west into the development there, Phase 1, there are 10 parking spots to the south of Sandy Grove. Yes. That would potentially be the conflict point, if I'm reading this correctly, where there would be parking. Is that parking delineated for the future commercial land
No,
use?
that's existing. That
That's
was built
it.
with phase 1.
And that's already, those 10
It's
spots are
constructed,
there?
yes.
Okay. All right, that's what I wanted to try to get at, to find out if we had some flexibility there of working with that to alleviate that. I think that there was some concerns relative to driving through the phases and not only connecting Phase 1 to Phase 2, but also traffic going from 2 to 1, 1 to 2, and then exiting either one of those phases. If I remember correctly, and looking back at the materials from a year ago, there were a lot more straight line entrances and exits that people really had concerns with. And here, by design, I'm assuming it's a little bit more, you come in, you have to curve, you curve around, you curve around, you curve around, and it's not a straight through shot where you can just barrel on through like a roadway. And so I think that knowing that that was a concern that was brought up last time, I'm actually pleased to see, always room for improvement, but I'm pleased to see the connectivity of the two, that isn't just like a speedway racetrack drag race road through there where people can just fly on through. And with that respect too, with the daycare in this plan, I think this is now probably, if my memory serves me, the fourth or fifth iteration of this plan that has sat up on that dais now.
That sat up on the dais. I was
Yeah.
going to say, this is number 38, I
Sure,
think.
sure.
Yeah.
But it's been presented to us or
Right.
city council.
Right.
And of all of them, this is by far the one that gives me less heartburn about the daycare. And it's because it's really contained in a way that isn't fenced off and doesn't look like a prison. But it's really, you're not going down to that area for anything other than the daycare. And I appreciate Commissioner May's comments about the drop-off, but I think the reality is that it's safer to not have the kids running from their cars or guardians or parents' cars in and around to daycare or to the playground area, and having that adult walk them in. And I appreciate having that as a condition. That was not a condition that we had last time. And I appreciate the fact that that's in here this time. If it gets approved, that would be something that would be required of the daycare. With regard to the playground and the frontage to Hook Street, can you talk a little bit about what is going to be on the south end of that that playground area that fronts Hook Street?
Of course. So these playgrounds are obviously completely fenced in. The only entrance to the playground, I believe, is through the building. So these are going to be completely fenced in. And also, as we were talking about the site layout of the daycare, and part of, we actually had this set further north, but talking with city and hearing concerns about, I guess pedestrian safety specific, and also the safety of this playground. One of the requests was to actually shift it south and add walls here. So this is going to be multiple feet higher than Hooks. And there's actually going to be retaining walls on this south side here at this hard corner where people are coming in. So it's just another added level of protection on the south side along Hooks. So realistically, that's what's going to be required just as a result of the grading of the site. But it also adds to the safety of that playground area. And then obviously we're going to have all the landscaping that we need along Hook Street as well.
Okay. It looks like in this proposal we have removed the 115,000 square foot storage warehouse, which was I hate to say it, a bane of contention. It was an issue with just sheer size and being right next door to the daycare, and the fact that we no longer allow that in the city in C2. It gets pulled out of this. The hotels, if I'm not mistaken, in this iteration, there was some concerns about 65 feet before. They're all now 55 feet in
That's
this
correct.
iteration, so it's 4 and 5 stories and no 6 stories. Can you just confirm
Correct.
that?
Yes.
The daycare is the same size as the last iteration that we saw.
That's correct.
From the P&Z. My area of concern with the future commercial, I'm not necessarily concerned about it being future commercial. It's just that what we allow by code in C2. And I realize it's 1.12 acres. I think in the Kittleson memo, it referenced a 10,000 square foot building potentially in that area.
Yeah, that was more of an assumption because we had to have some sort of design assumption to account for traffic in that area.
Sure.
Just to make sure that we've accounted for future development there.
So in essence, give or take, obviously, a couple of hundred square feet, it could be roughly the size of the daycare.
Potentially,
Potentially.
really, yeah, really,
Smaller,
it's going to be a function of
most likely
parking.
smaller, but could be the size of the daycare.
Potentially.
Just for visual purposes. So, looking at C2, retail businesses, I don't think any of us, have expressed any concerns there. Offices, maybe a bowling alley, another restaurant may make sense, given that there's restaurants there. It's not going to potentially be a hotel. It's very small for a hotel.
Right.
Or a shopping, it could be shopping. But there are some issues related to lodges and clubs and lounges. So it could be a bar, which then potentially I think maybe it might have some issues with relative to the proximity of it being to a daycare, or a medical marijuana dispensary is allowed in C2. And so I think I know you don't have the idea of what it's going to be there now, but to alleviate or potentially ease some concerns of us, but also maybe forecasting what may come when it goes before the council, given past conversations, what kinds of assurances can we work on here that either would restrict the use or require a check off when that future commercial item is identified.
Ryan Stahl again. I'll let Mr. Waugh handle code. I will say going back to the comment before with regards to Mr. Kramer asking about the CCNRs. Within the CCNRs, especially having national retailers such as Portillo's and Longhorn, they actually do restrict those type of uses. The freestanding bar, it has to serve food, so it can't have that particular uses. And then all the other obnoxious uses are also restricted. And so those restrictions are not only in the leases, but those are actually in the CCNRs too, which we'd be glad to provide to you.
Okay. I think thank you for that, because that's helpful information to know, and not knowing that we don't obviously, we can look, it's public record. It's a clerk of courts, we can find the CCRs, but we didn't have that information here to know, and I think that's helpful to be aware of the fact that there are some already restrictions there, and that's not something that, given that it's a CCNR, it's not something that a new lease could necessarily change. It would have to go through a legal process to change that legal document to change that. So I think that gives us some assurances relative to that. I appreciate the sidewalk connections. That was not present really before by any means. I don't even think we had crosswalks identified, and having those crosswalks identified in here and having delineated places where people can walk, because it's going to make sense. People are going to walk from that hotel to restaurants and back. They're not going to necessarily drive to Portillo's. So I think it makes sense to have that connectivity in walkway. And if, I'm not necessarily happy about the zero internal landscape buffer, but I think if it allows for that continuity and congruency, 5 years from now, I think that's going to make sense versus why did this get developed? This must have gotten developed 10 years apart from each other because it looks like two different owners, two different philosophies, two different plans, and no congruency. And why the heck did our previous council and commission do this? So I do appreciate that. Also, I appreciate you saying about the fact that, look, you realize that the grading, that's one of the conditions that was there before, the request that was there before. You guys got some pushback from the council and from us. The reality is it's either that or retention walls. And so we have to figure out as a community, what do we want to look at? Do we want to look at a bunch of really tall walls, or do we want to try to facilitate and work with a piece of property that was a mine that has crazy topography, that even if this had and if there is such a thing, a development that all 50,000 residents of Clermont could agree on, would probably still require some sort of grading variances and/or large retention walls to do because of just the sheer topography of it. So I appreciate your willingness to work with whatever recommendations move forward. I think that gives us some flexibility and some, hopefully some thought process behind your willingness to work with us on that. I think that covers everything else, all the other items. Oh, one other thing, sorry. The Hook Street Western Access Point may be required. So again, to go back to what was said before, that was not actually in our last commission agenda item back in July of 2024. Lake County had not reviewed it, or they had just started to review it and it wasn't approved. There were some concerns, I think, maybe that's a strong word, but there were some things. And now it states that, hey, if it may be required and the length of the turn lanes may need to be improved, and that would be on the developers to improve working with Lake County on Hook Street. Because it's a county road.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify that and make sure that that's out there as well. Okay, thank you. Any other final comments or questions? And I don't know if the city attorney wanted to provide any additional feedback on the C2 uses and our conversation relative to that.
Just a tangential point. You, Mr. Chair, made the comment that the self-storage may no longer be allowed in C2, and I know that was the intent. Clermont did pass it. SB 180.
True.
Retroactive. So I'm not so sure that that's true any longer.
Yeah. All right.
Wait,
Okay.
Chairman.
Yes, I'm going to bring it back to the rest of the commission for any final thoughts. Commissioner Nemec.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For just real quick, for the applicant, the fence that you were saying you put on the retention area, thank you for putting a fence up. Since there is a safety factor and it is a daycare, is it going to be standard size to fit, or are you going to be like additional safety a foot higher or the max? Like what size fence? 4 foot, 6 foot?
You're
Because
saying
I
for
believe
the-
that's
for
the
the
max,
playground?
if I'm not mistaken.
You're saying for the playground?
No, for the retention pond that's surrounding. See, I'm worried about a kid
Yeah.
getting out. All right, you listen, kids, they go their own direction until,
It would likely be a 6-foot fence.
a 6 foot fence? Okay, that was very easy for us to answer. And I'm confused about the other gentleman said, because now this has me thinking. You said there was no bar in Longhorn, sir?
No, freestanding.
I'm sorry, I didn't have this on, so somebody help me out here.
No, what I was clarifying is a bar that does not serve food is
Okay,
considered,
okay.
is not allowed by the
Okay,
other uses.
okay. Thank you. I'm sorry to have you walk up here again, so I apologize. And this is for staff, real quick. I'm looking at this drawing, this diagram. I noticed there's no sidewalks on hooks. Is there a reason for that? Or is that an exempt because it's on hooks? Is it exempt because it's a state project? Is it exempt because it's like Kings Ridge? I mean,
Sidewalks are usually put in when the site is developed. So when they develop the site, the sidewalk will make the connection.
okay, and the length of the sidewalk would be normal 4 feet in width?
Whatever's required by Lake County.
Oh, so that's county.
Yeah, it's county.
We're back to county then.
Yes, sir.
Yeesh. All right, great. Oh, I have them all answered. Thank you. That was quick. Okay. Thank you,
good?
Commissioner. Yeah, I'm all good.
Any other final comments or questions?
Yep, you brought up the height of the wall. So the height of the wall for the playground, that you didn't answer. So but you said 6-foot fence for the retention, and it's only going around that one retention, not the other one, correct?
Well, there's
Potentially the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the side slopes of the pond, really. If they're anything steeper than 4-to-1s, then they require a fence.
Okay. But then the wall for the playground, you said there is going to be a wall surrounding the playground?
There's going to be a wall on this corner here, right here, and then there's a fence surrounding the playground.
Oh, just
It's fenced in.
Like a,
Yeah,
right, but
I
is
believe
it, it's
yeah,
not
I
like
believe
a,
there's a 6-foot
but it's not an iron
fence, yeah.
fence, it's a white, tall, non-see-through.
Yeah, something like that. That's That's more driven by the daycare themselves. They have their own requirements for that. And I believe there's state or federal requirements.
It's
for-
requirements, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's, I
exactly.
just wanted to make sure on
Yes.
that. And then, so I'm just looking at Dick's and Hobby Lobby, the back of that, I know there's a road, so you're going to, that, I guess, setback is the same somewhat? I mean, it's kind of off on the planning, but see the setback on Dick's is a little bit bigger from the road to their parking area or their little drive-through area. Is that going to be the same? Is that the?
No, I think that was more a function of the grading. There's pretty significant topography changes on
Right.
Dick's Sporting Goods as well. So if you drive by the site, there's 3 tiered retaining walls.
Yeah, I know, I
So-
saw that, so I
yeah,
just
so I
wanted
think
to
it's
look-
more of a function of that than anything.
But yeah, there is a sidewalk, so you'll continue the sidewalk, right?
Yeah, I believe the sidewalk already exists along Hook Street.
Yeah,
We're just
I
not
guess you can't
highlighting
see it because it's overgrown, so
Well,
I was just wondering.
Right.
That's the only thing that I have, so I appreciate it.
All right, seeing no other comments, I will entertain a motion for the item.
I'm happy to make a motion, but I believe you had an amendment, Ms. Mayor?
Sorry, yes. Yeah, so make a motion, I guess, to approve resolution number 2025-013R, Clermont West Phase 2 CUP with the conditions, my conditions would be to provide a tree survey and to follow and have the site plan, I guess, once site plan happens, to follow section 123 of the code.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? And can I just clarify, Commissioner May, when you say follow section 123, what is your intent there?
It's the whole entire code of, it's the tree ordinance 123. It goes from 123,
And I guess my question for Mr. Cruz is going to be, for section 123, and that's the reason why I asked the question, is what would precipitate the mitigation process would be the survey. If we make the motion to say 123, all has to be included in there. Is there anything outside of the tree survey and tree mitigation process?
Not that I can
'cause
think,
I-
it's all encompassing of that section.
Okay.
It talks about the buffer, the types of trees, those types of things. So I think it would be safe.
Okay,
Because I believe it's 123 Article 2, if I can remember off the top of my head.
for the survey and the mitigation?
I
Okay.
believe so.
I just want to make sure that we're not talking about if we're talking about two things or we're talking about one thing, so.
because
just
I
wanna
think
clarify.
section 123, because the two, I see that, but also 123-102 is the criteria for tree removal and tree replacement. So that's why I said all of 123, unless, Mr. Wog, you want specifics.
No, I think it's fine. I mean, I think it's, a maxim that we always have to follow the laws anyways. So to the extent you want this to follow chapter 123
Yep.
and the rest of the code, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So there is a motion by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Colby. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I'm going to say aye, sorry, I was late.
Okay, so we have, and the chair is going to vote aye as well, so the motion passes 5-2 with Commissioners Nemec and Tadona voting no. Do I have that correct with everyone? Okay. And so then this will go to the city council. Please work with staff on when this will be put on the future city agenda item. Thank you. Okay. We are now moving on to item number 2 and item number 3, just for everyone's information. Items 2 and 3 are both relative to the CarMax expansion. Item 2 is ordinance number 2025-026, the CarMax expansion small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. And then also, item number 3 is ordinance number 2025-027, CarMax expansion rezoning. They will be presented together, and we can discuss and ask questions together, but they will require separate votes. All right, so with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman Bain. This is, again, agenda items 2 and 3, CarMax. The applicant, Thomas Dixon, is requesting annexation, a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, and rezoning of the subject property. And the subject property is outlined in yellow. And here's the black and white here. To give you a little relationship of where it's at, it's located east of County Road 455, which is here, north of State Road 50, and then access is via Autoplex Lane. And it is approximately 17.5 acres. And this is a map that's going to be used for the annexation case before council. The property meets the requirements for consideration annexation of Florida Statutes 171 by adjacency to the current city limits. And the city limits surround the site to the west, the south, and the east. The property is located within the JPA and ISBA service boundaries, and the city issued a letter documenting intent to serve the property in September of 2024. And this letter was in your packet as well. Lake County is in the final stages of approving the final site plan for the development, with the understanding the city will be providing water and sewer service. The property shall be developed as a continuation of the existing CarMax dealership to be used as auto inventory, wholesale auction, and other accessory uses to the dealership. And to give you a perspective, this is the site we're talking about outlined in yellow. The current CarMax facility is over here to the southwest, Autoplex Lane, State Road 50 to the south, and this is the trail that runs along through here. The proposed site plan has been reviewed by the Clermont Site Review Committee as part of the JPA agreement to ensure the proposed development is in compliance with the Clermont Land Development Regulations. And this is the future land use here. The current future land use in Lake County is commercial. As part of the annexation process, the property will need a City of Clermont future land use designation. A similar designation in the city is commercial and would be compatible with the proposed end development. A majority of the existing future land uses in the area, and this would be the cities here, to the west is commercial, to the south is commercial, and to the east is commercial. The applicant's request to change the future land use to the city's commercial designation does not propose a conflict to the existing uses and land uses in the area. The proposed project and existing Lake County future land use is commercial. Several parcels in the area are City of Clermont commercial, and this would be a continuation of that future land use. Staff recommends approval of the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use from Lake County commercial to City of Clermont commercial. Next, we're going to move on to the rezoning. And the applicant is requesting a rezoning from Lake County Plan Commercial, which again, this is Lake County zoning map here, and this is the property, to City of Clermont Plan Unit Development as part of the annexation process. The property has an existing ordinance number 2025-03, issued by Lake County that includes specific development requirements relating to the proposed end use as auto inventory, wholesale auction, and other accessory uses with the adjoining existing CarMax dealership. The property was previously used as an asphalt plant operating under Lake County industrial zoning prior to the recent zoning change to Plan Commercial in Lake County. And again, here's a photograph, aerial photograph of the site, which shows the industrial use that previously was on the site that is still being used until the conversion of this site. The requested city's PUD zoning would allow the transfer of the existing specific development requirements. As part of the PUD, the applicant would be required to develop the site plan in substantial accordance to a site plan. And just to give you some reference, this is Autoplex Lane to the top. It goes out to State Road 50. The proposed site plan, as part of the city's ordinance, has been reviewed by the Clermont Site Review Committee as part of the JPA agreement to ensure the proposed development is in compliance to Clermont Land Development Code regulations. The site plan would replace the one currently in Lake County's ordinance. So this one would replace the one that's in the county ordinance. In the packet, I believe the ordinance was in there, and it was just a little more generalized. This is a little more specific with the layout and use. Majority of the specific development requirements have been incorporated in the city's ordinance with a few changes to coincide with the city's land development code or been eliminated since the city's code addresses the issue, such as noise and mass grading, or is no longer applicable, such as the annexation requirements. The capturing of the existing zoning of planned commercial is most appropriately suited to the city's planned unit development, since this allows an ordinance format and allows specific uses to be documented as condition. Staff is in support of the rezoning request and recommends approval of ordinance 2025-027. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. This is the portion of the meeting for a public hearing on items number 2 and 3, ordinance number 2025-026, CarMax expansion, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? No, it's not. This is for the applicant to present first. Sorry. I'm entitled to have one mistake like that, right? So is the applicant present, and would you have a presentation for the Planning and Zoning Commission? Please state your name and address for the record.
Commissioner Bain, if
Yes.
just give us a moment. The computer went to lockout mode.
Oh, okay.
So I have to get IT here to unlock it for me.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Please.
we're ready when you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, and Commissioners and staff. My name is Jimmy Crawford. I'm a lawyer with Crawford, Monica, and Holt, 702 West Montrose Street, Clermont, Florida. And I do represent CarMax and the applicant, Tad Dixon, in this case. And I do have with us tonight Brent Lenzen, who is the project engineer from Kimley Horn, to try to answer any of those kind of questions that get out of the lawyer realm, which happen real fast at this. We have Cassidy Clements, who does have a short presentation. She is the land development manager from Center Point. She came all the way from Denver, Colorado to be with us tonight. So, and we have Steve Hudak, who is the real estate design development manager for CarMax. And can I echo a little point about the Native Plant Society? We love them, and I refer every developer to them. And they don't do anything with animals, but they do with the plants. They remove them, take them mostly to Lake Louisa State Park and other places. Yeah, love them.
I've received a text message from my wife, who has been watching, who wholeheartedly agrees with both of you on that. So.
Yep, it's absolutely true. I'm not going to kill a clasping warrior unless if I can avoid it, I promise. As the staff report discusses, we've been at this about a year and a half in Lake County and working with the city the whole time. We did receive our PUD approval. We've applied for a site plan approval. As a part of that, we are required to supply a utility agreement that says whatever utility provider will provide utilities. We got a letter from the city saying that, but you've got to have an actual formal agreement. That formal agreement comes with a covenant to annex, always, which I've argued about before. I'm not going to argue about it tonight because we want to annex. And rather than wait for the site plan to be fully finished and fully in, CarMax wants to come in and be a part of the city and design the rest of the site or the entire site completely to city standards rather than JPA standards. So that precipitated the application. We've spent a couple of $100,000 so far on the site plan approvals in the county. I'm going to turn it over to Cassidy, who has a much more professional presentation than I do. I would just note that this has been a heavy industrial use since the late 80s and the early 90s. Takes hundreds of trucks in and out every day. It's a crushed concrete recycling facility and a asphalt recycling facility. So we're going to get rid of a big dust producer in the east part of the county and try to turn it into an asset for the city as a whole, and certainly for CarMax. And after the presentation, after we hear from neighbors and questions from you guys, we'd be happy to try to address those.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Really excited to be here today. Like you said, came from Denver. Steve came from Virginia, so we are just excited to be here. I won't belabor the point anymore. You've heard it a few times, but we just are here to talk with you about a rezoning and a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. So the general location of our subject site is north of State Route 50, right next to the existing CarMax. Like my two previous speakers have talked about, the existing site is the industrial site. I put a little red pin on top of where the CarMax is, so we'll connect to the existing CarMax site and redevelop that industrial site. Small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning application are before you today because of our annexation application with the city. This is our conceptual site plan. We are connecting to the existing CarMax site using the truck carrier route. The site will be for wholesale operations and our auction facility. There is an existing auction facility on the subject site, on the existing CarMax site. We're really just looking to expand to right-size the operations. The operations do not intend to expand in traffic and impacts, but really we just need to right-size and allow for the existing operations to have their space on our subject site. We find that the proposed use is consistent with the city's comp plan. We find that our proposed use is consistent with the applicable sections of the Land Development Code. The proposed use is compatible with the adjacent land uses along Autoplex Lane, it's all car dealerships, and we find that our proposed use considers the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding parcels and community. We are improving Autoplex Lane along our site, so we're improving the road there, and we are adding an 8-foot sidewalk along our property to meet up with the Lake County Trailhead on the north side of our site. So staff concurs with, CarMax concurs with staff's analysis for the rezoning and small-scale comp plan amendment approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with the developer have anything to say at this point? Otherwise, when it comes back to the commission, if we have questions, any one of you can come up and answer those questions. So now is actually the time where this is the portion of the public meeting where it's a public hearing for these two items. Item number 2, ordinance number 2025-026, CarMax expansion, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. And item number 3, ordinance number 2025-027, CarMax expansion rezoning. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? If so, please come forward, state your name and address, and please limit your remarks to this item and no more than 3 minutes. Anyone here in the audience who would like to speak to this item, please come forward now. Seeing no one, we will bring it back to the commission, and we'll start again with Commissioner Colby.
I'm very excited about this change. I think this is long overdue for this site. It's long been an eyesore in our community, a traffic generator. So I think this is really great. So I appreciate your efforts, and I think it's going to make that part of 50 that's a gateway to our community a lot more cohesive. So I applaud you, appreciate your efforts, and I look forward to supporting this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Nemec.
No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you. Give me just 1 second. So this property seems to have a legacy of environmental conditions that from the prior use with that asphalt plant there. So my first question is, has an environmental assessment or self-remediation plan been submitted for this site?
Yes, it has. So CarMax's policy during the feasibility period of our research is completing Phase 1 ESA, or environmental site assessment. And if need be, a Phase 2 environmental site assessment is completed if the results of the Phase 1 indicate that we need to move forward with the Phase 2. So all testing has been completed and it meets our development standards, right? If CarMax is going to acquire a site to develop, we will need to mitigate potential environmental concerns. So there are no outstanding environmental concerns. Brent, do you want to add anything to that? Great. So yes.
Can I add one thing to that?
Please.
The previous site, DeWitt, was a federally regulated site that dealt with hazardous materials, and therefore they were inspected and required to test quite often. And I think that's, when they first put it under contract, I'm going like, y'all be careful. And it came back clean, I think, because of the heavy regulation on the previous use.
Okay.
I'll add one more thing to that as well. The site has been cleaned up. It was a part of our conditions for purchasing the property for the stockpiles to be removed and for remediation to occur. So those stockpiles have been removed from the site. I saw it today, drive in, headed west. It's cleared out, as I'm sure you've seen. The pavilion is remaining. That pavilion will be demolished as part of our construction.
Wonderful. And this might be for John. Are there any groundwater monitoring or cleanup conditions required by the city or the state?
We normally don't get involved with that. That's actually left up to the state or the federal government to deal with those things, so
Okay,
we're not involved with that.
Sounds like we're pretty good, though. Will there be any restrictions on excavation or grading due to the past industrial use? Anything you're going to be restricted from doing?
There aren't any special restrictions, but we're also not asking for any kind of waivers or variances. It's a pretty darn flat site after they finish removing the stockpiles.
Right.
And so it's just gonna be landscaping and asphalt after that.
Okay. And while auto-related use aligns with the adjacent parcels and limits opportunities for mixed use or retail development in the long term, so does this type of auto storage and auction use reflect the city's long-term goal for the State Road 50 corridor, John?
Commissioner Kramer, in terms of this area, it is a niche area. If you notice the name Autoplex Lane, this was designated as years ago as an auto-related industry area. So to answer your question, yes, it would be.
Bear with me. The expansion includes wholesale auto auctions, which could increase delivery, truck traffic, and vehicle movements on State Road 50 and Autoplex Lane. Are there any turn lane or signal improvements required for the expansion?
Gonna come have our civil engineer speak to that. There's quite a few people up here to talk about this project.
Good evening, Brent Lenzen with Kimley Horn. No, there's not any off-site traffic improvements associated with the project. So one part of the Lake County site plan review process we've been going through was we were able to submit for a traffic impact analysis exemption. And within the county, if you're within 100 daily trips or less in the peak hour, you don't require a full traffic study. And this project in the PM peak hour is only 30 trips. So it's a substantial reduction in actually the trips and traffic that the current site generates compared to what the future site will.
I'm also just curious, because I can't tell, will there be any access from the back of the property to like Old 50? I mean, you're not going to interfere with the South Lake Trail or anything like that, right?
No.
Okay, good. Lastly, will there be large-scale auto auctions, and if so, how is that traffic going to be managed?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the auto auctions will take place once a week, generally once a week. The auctions will take place in the exact fashion that they are taking place now. There is an auction facility on the existing CarMax site. Like I said, we are just right-sizing the operation. So that auction building will be moving to our expansion site, and the building that is currently being utilized for auction is the final quality control building that will then be used for final quality control for its right-size purpose.
Very good.
Yes.
So to me, this annexation and land use amendment provides a seamless continuation of our established business that has already been proven successful in that area. Carmack's expansion supports local economic activity without changing the intended land use, and it brings additional inventory and auction operations in the city with to me, no residential impact. So the infrastructure appears to be in place, and the city is prepared to serve it, so I'm leaning very positively for this. Thank you.
Commissioner Hoisington?
I have no questions. I too think this is much needed, and thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tadona?
Good evening. Could you expand a little bit on how you're going to improve Autoplex Lane?
Yeah,
Are you allowed
absolutely.
to?
So we're milling and resurfacing the road, so from our property line up to the top of the lot, and maybe Brent, yep, civil engineer.
And conveniently, I was the engineer for the Tesla dealership just to the south, just brought through this process a while ago. So within that, it was basically, before that property was developed, it was basically barricaded and fenced off. There's no access. You just got to the Toyota access and that was it.
Right.
So the Tesla dealership did the same, resurfacing of the road to their northern limits of their property boundary, which is now the southern limits of ours. So we're basically implementing the same pavement restoration plan as they did with mill and resurface all the way to the north, which gets to the county trailhead triangular property just to the north.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
then the trail connection will be from our southern property limits, basically our whole entire property frontage along Autoplex Lane.
Okay, stay there. I know there's a retention pond. I know we said, and we used the term that it was just a big flat piece of land. Is there any other mitigation that you need to take into consideration, that the water doesn't go onto Autoplex and doesn't go into that residential area, go anywhere else? Everything is just gonna, we're confident the retention pond is gonna get all that water. Nothing is going to off the sides or
Yes, sir.
flood out a parking lot.
There's going to be perimeter, just landscape buffers, which you know how those naturally will tie down to existing grade. But everything that's proposed within the impervious improvements on the site will all pitch and drain to the north through inlets and collection. And the pond is generally large compared to what you would expect, because we're kind of being held to closed basin criteria. There's not a real natural outfall to a river, creek, stream to the ocean eventually here.
Right.
So we're really running back-to-back storm events to make sure nothing leaves that pond. It doesn't have a control structure mechanism to discharge somewhere else.
Okay.
So that's how much volume it's able to
The
hold.
other thing that I appreciate is one of your diagrams had all trees or something. I don't want to identify a tree or a bush or whatever, but there was foliage all the way around, which would kind of give that little natural break that if I'm looking out of my kitchen window, I'm not looking at, with all due respect, you know, an auctioneer, okay? So thank you for that. And I'm not going to get into the weeds, pardon the pun, as to how high they need to be or how close they need to be. I'm sure you've got that all figured out. I can only imagine maybe you might want to even look into some sort of species that drains water or absorbs water to help that retention pond. So I kind of thought it was very clearly thought out and well thought out with respect to the neighborhood as well. So thank you.
Yeah, you'll notice that northwestern side, the buffer looks different on the plan, and that's
Yeah.
where we enhanced and planted more to really buffer from the apartment complex there.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner May?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for a great presentation, for providing some graphics and information and that we need. So I appreciate that, and thank you for coming to Clermont, and hopefully you're enjoying, both of you, our city. I worked in engineering a long time ago. I did phase 1s and phase 2s back in the day, so I can understand these complicated sites. So I am actually happy that it's no longer going to be a crushed concrete or asphalt crush producer, and it's actually going to be something else besides what it is now. My question in regards to I guess the road, the Carmax Road or whatever it's called, Autoplex Lane, you had said that it's going to go to the back and it's going to connect to the trail? Is that, or did I misunderstand
No, so if you
that?
can see on the screen on that right side, there's a little turnaround. It's there today in really poor condition. Yeah, so that is just the dead end.
It's kind of a U-turn.
So that's where improvements, there's pavement there today in really poor condition. So we're improving it, modernizing it to an extent.
Okay.
To that point. But that triangular piece of property that's on the bump outside of it, that's owned by Lake County, and that's what they intend to use as a trailhead connection in the future.
Interesting.
So that's the intent, is we're
Okay.
going to be improving the road to that point, and then just on the west side of that road, you'll see the trail extension we're providing. But there is no connection via trail or roadway to the north from our project.
Okay, so that was my question. Who owns that site there? So that's going to be a
county.
trailhead connection. Okay, perfect.
And Ms. May, if I can
Yes.
add, that triangle piece was given by Toyota at the county's request to do a trailhead park 12 years ago. And I ride my bike on that trail all the time, and I would love to have a trailhead there, and they've had the land sitting there. So if everybody could call their county commissioner, maybe we can get it in the budget for next year.
Right, yeah, it would be great to have a park there and maybe use some recyclable, rubber from the cars and make it kind of like mix it in with the Autoplex
Love the way you think.
theme.
Yes, that's
the
actually
theme.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that. I appreciate, not like the last group, but I appreciate that you put a landscaping plan here. That really made me feel a little bit better in regards to seeing the buffer between the apartments or townhomes. I don't know if they're apartments to your auction place. You had said that auto auctions happen once a week. How many people show up to these auctions usually? And are you having adequate parking for the auctioneers or auctioners or whatever you call them?
Yes, absolutely. So the parking lot is designed to have adequate parking for the demand on these auction sites. This is not a unique site here in Clermont. We have auction sites all over the country, and so we have a lot of data to show what we need and at what demand level they need to be at. So this lot was specifically designed to cater to the auction site.
So do you know how many? Do you have a marketing, or I'm just curious?
We're just going to add one more person.
The whole season.
Yeah, why not? You flew in, why not?
Steve Hudak, 12,800 Tuckahoe Creek Parkway, Richmond, Virginia. So it's hard to estimate specifically. Our targets for an auction like this would be somewhere between 200 and 400 customers.
Wow.
So they would be licensed dealers in the state of Florida that have a CarMax invitation. So they have to pass our standards to be a customer as well. So that's a total customer count. How many actually show up on site is probably dependent on market conditions in whatever week we're running the auction. Today across the country, it's a pretty limited participation because everybody can bid online. And since COVID, that's what a majority or predominance of our customers are doing. But we've sized the site so that if there was ever the desire for customers to be back in lane, we can accommodate that.
Okay. I think that's it. I think that you answered all my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And thank you for mentioning that there's a swing in town. I will be going tomorrow.
You caught it at the right time because when it first opened, you might have to extend your stay to wait in line. I just want to say, unrelated to anything other than I couldn't believe the first 5 pages of our documents was your legal description. So I think you should have won an award for the longest legal description ever. 4 points. 1, sidewalk in connection with the trail doesn't happen. It's not there now. That's an improvement with this. Number 2, less traffic, fewer bigger vehicles leaving and going to this lot. Improvement to this area. Number 3, huge improvements overall, physical, sound, environmental, just quality of life, particularly because we do have some housing there. And I think that oftentimes developers may look at multi-family housing and say, well, we might be able to get away with something that's maybe not as pleasant sounding, looking, smelling, seeing, and that is not the case with this project and this proposal. Also, too, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to come in, and I know it's not before us, but it'll be before the council with these two items to annex in right up front to meet the city's standards versus the JPA standards. I think that gives our community some assurances that, hey, we know what our standards are and not what we had to compromise potentially with in an agreement with Lake County, and you're willing to meet those and not ask for any variances and changes to those. So much appreciated and kudos to that. I think this will, as Commissioner Colby said, huge improvement to this area.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be paying city impact fees.
Yes,
And that
well,
was
it goes without
another
saying,
component.
that's another advantage of annexing in.
Right.
Any other final comments from the commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion first on item number 2. Oh, I'm sorry, one more final thing. John, Mr. Cruz, do you happen to have page 71 of the packet? It shows the trees and the current. I think that it's just important to show how this project is utilizing the current existing landscaping, mature landscaping. We've talked a lot about mature landscaping here versus new landscaping, and how that's going to stay fronting the trailhead. Yeah, that's all that green that you see at the bottom of that arrow. That's all trees, mature trees, full greenage that's going to stay in place and buffer what is happening on this project. So I really appreciate the fact that you did not go to the county and ask to remove any or all of those from that. So that being said, item number 2, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll set a motion for approval for item number 2, ordinance number 2025-026.
There's a motion by Mr. Nemec. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kramer. Any final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. The motion carries 7-0. Move to item number 3. I'll take a motion.
Go ahead, Vince.
I'll set a motion again for approval of item number 3, ordinance number 2025. Sorry, see, I made a mistake too. So.
Catch it.
-027.
Motion by Commissioner Nemec. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kramer. Any final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. These will go to a city council meeting in the near future, and please work with staff on those agendas. Thank you. All right, at this point, we will turn it over to our esteemed city attorney to talk about proposed rules and discussion for item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So in the last several months, the issue has come up several times. You know, I think I wouldn't say, well, some concern that you would have a rezoning application before you or a CUP application before you, but you wouldn't really be able to kind of do your own independent investigation. Or I forget who it was, but someone said, I have to avert my eyes as I drive by. And it's not so rigorous as that, but the general rule, of course, in Florida is in your quasi-judicial hearings, as I've said before, your decisions have to be based on the facts and the evidence that come to you in the hearing. And I think what I hear is, you know, how could it be that I have to stick my head in the sand? And the answer is you don't necessarily have to. So there is Florida Statute 286.0115. And this is the statute that could enable you to start actually doing site visits, speaking to applicants, even soliciting your own expert opinions that you want to consider. But it has to be done the way that is in this statute. And what the statute says is, number 1, it has to be passed as an ordinance or a resolution from the city council. So as concerns that, I'm bringing it up to you because I don't have any mandate or request from the city council to change this. But if you had a consensus about what you wanted to do, I'd talk to them about it and push it. I've already drafted something that could be used. Do you have a question already?
No,
Okay.
I'm getting ready for
You're getting ready, okay, locked and loaded. So the second step that would have to be done is the content of the resolution would have to have certain things, and they're all in the statute. So I want to just cover a little bit about what it says so that you can think about it and maybe give me some guidance. Let's see. I'm going to read subsection 1C. It says that any person not otherwise prohibited by statute, charter provision, or ordinance may discuss with any local public official the merits of any matter on which action may be taken by any board or commission on which that local public official is a member. If adopted by county or municipal ordinance or resolution, adherence to the following procedures shall remove the presumption of prejudice arising from ex parte communication. Number one, the substance of any ex parte communication with a local public official which relates to the pending quasi-judicial action is not presumed prejudicial if the subject of the communication and the identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place is disclosed and made a part of the record, as you heard Chairman Bain do tonight, okay? Number two, a local public official may read a written communication from any person. However, a written communication that relates to a quasi-judicial action pending before a local public official shall not be presumed prejudicial, and such written communication shall be made a part of the record. So if you get an email or that you want to be a part of the record, bring it in, make it a part of the record. It won't be presumed prejudicial. Number three, local public officials may conduct investigations and site visits and may receive expert opinions regarding quasi-judicial action pending before them. Such activities shall not be presumed prejudicial to the action if the existence of the investigation, site visit, or expert opinion is made a part of the record before final action on the matter. That's really important because, of course, it's not really fair to just have an expert opinion in your head if they don't have a chance to see it, respond to it, that kind of thing. So that's why it has to be made, under this rule, it'd have to be made a part of the record. And disclosure made under those three prior paragraphs must be made before or during the public meeting at which a vote is taken on such matters. That's it. So this is something that is within the city's power to do to enable you to really ramp up what you can do if that's your wish. I'm just the lawyer. I'm giving you options. And I know you don't have the direct power, but I think what you want would be influential to the city council.
So you're seeking from us questions and comments about that, A, and also then B, guidance on whether or not you would, the consensus from us to go to the city council
That is correct.
and city management staff and present potential resolution / ordinance, whatever it has to be, in order for us to be able to do that. Would that ordinance resolution also apply then to the city councilors themselves?
I would propose that it does. It doesn't necessarily have to, but you've seen the city council meetings. I mean, I think this is probably something they'd be interested in as well.
Sure. I just clarification.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Questions? Commissioner Nemec, you hit your microphone first.
Well, thank you for observing that, Chairman. Counselor, how long have you been up here with us? Almost
7 months.
7 months.
6 or 7.
And how many times you hear me complaining I'm not getting an accurate report into my packet?
I've heard it before.
I know you have, because I always complain about it. All right? So you also stated that you might have a draft for us, if I wasn't...
I have a draft prepared.
Are we going to have it emailed to us so we can look it over, and then,
I
like,
can.
we're going to
I
add
mean,
to it?
Yeah, that's no problem.
All right, or make sure, Ray, make sure I get a copy of that, please, if you don't mind. I like this idea of yours. I really do. I don't have a problem talking to the city council members, and I'm hoping that they're in our favor. And this would benefit them too as well. Trust me when I tell you that. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to keep my trap shut.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Commissioner Tadona?
So I guess my question is, we're going to find out if it's, I'm sorry, but when you talk to me, it's got to be an idiot speak, and I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. We're going to find out if it's okay that I could either, let's say, use Google Maps, or I could go out to the site, right? So now if I go out to the site, we're gonna find out if it's okay that if I see a resident or a business owner, I could actually say, hey, how are you, how you doing? Are you aware of this going on or whatever, right?
You're asking if there's an application on a site, they're trying to do something, you go out there and you just see someone walking by and you
Sure.
accost them?
Sure.
And
No.
I'm joking.
We're not,
No,
John,
I'm joking.
John doesn't accost.
I'm
Those
joking.
those
I'm
days are
joking.
long over.
But yeah, no, I think that's correct. That's-
Okay, so let me ask you it this way then. I go out to a site and I see somebody. I don't need to necessarily talk about anything that's on an agenda item, but if I were to say, how's your quality of life? How's traffic like this? And is that a decent line of questioning? What would you, I'm not going to, without even talking about what's going on an agenda item or what might show up, a Wawa or whatever it is, but can I ask him about traffic? Hey, look, I'm looking to move to this neighborhood. What's traffic like? What do you do here? How's the nightlife and things like that?
I think that's more like public input. So I don't, it's not evidence at the hearing. I think you are allowed to do that.
Right, but if two or three people are walking up to me and saying, yeah, traffic is ridiculous, it's terrible, I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I realize that I may or may not be able to use something like that when I come up to the microphone. Okay, so.
And I think, just to clarify, I think that would be a may not, is what I hear you say, is it would have to be some sort of expert kind of.
No, this is a.
And that's why I want to clarify.
Right.
I think this is actually a very tricky question, because if you had said, if I go to the site and I talk to the owner, well, that person, the fact that you disclosed, the fact that you went, spoke with the owner, have the name, can disclose it at the hearing, would be fine if we adopt these rules. As it is, I don't think it would be.
Right, so,
But if it's a member of
so
the
we
public.
just broached an interesting concept. So here I am, I talk to a store owner, I go in, how's everything going? Do you have enough parking? And blah, 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 I'm looking to move here and all that other stuff. Am I gonna get dragged through the mud because I've either got the person who lives there, but they're not the subject matter expert engineer that says, no, everything is gonna be fine?
No, but this rule would allow you to do both,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I could weigh the two.
You could factor them however you wanted.
Okay, I could factor, okay. I turn around from the counter, and Vin Nemec is standing behind me doing the same thing. He just happened to walk in for a soda, I walked in for a soda.
Right.
Do I get to ask him, so you're here probably looking at the same piece of property, what information have you gotten? Because now we've got a problem.
Now we've got a problem.
Okay.
Due to a separate issue, which
Okay,
is the
so.
sunshine law.
Okay, so just walk away from Vin, even though he's doing the same thing I'm doing.
Correct.
Okay. So, again, I'm an idiot, but I'm a little bit of a realistic idiot. And you had said earlier, and you even corrected our commissioner, saying that, not that you corrected him, we throw around so much legalese, it makes my head boggle.
Join the club.
Yeah, well, in spite of all of this, in spite of me going on Google Maps, looking up whatever precedents, you and I have had some awesome conversations, little different things here and there. I'm going to go back to what I said. We're still shoveling poop against the tide because it's like a wicked game of chess with the state legislature who keeps passing a law that says, oh, you found a gray area, we just closed that gray area. You found a gray area, we just closed that gray area. So I love the fact that I was a community liaison. I mean, there's a lady in the audience that can tell you I don't shut up when it comes to like doing stuff. I love talking to people. You have no idea how much I love talking to people. That's how you learn stuff. So to learn what an absolute resident, somebody in the neighborhood, a ground pounder might have to input, to me is a lot more beneficial than what some guy with an alphabet after his name is got who's coming from Ohio to do something. But at the end of the day, if the bills and the House stuff is stacked against us, it sucks to say, do you either approve everything or do you deny everything? Because it's just, no matter what you do, once it comes to city council, somebody's hands are tied. And I'm sorry, I'm only here almost as long as you're here. And I could see it already. It's just, there's no, like, again, I could walk into the deli, you walk into the deli, and I got to ignore you, aside from, hey, the sky is blue, right?
I mean, I really think the odds of that happening are minimal. And
Right,
I think
I'm sure it is.
And I think
What?
a lot of what you're talking about are like legislative concerns. You know, a lot of what you have to decide here are fact-based things. Like, you have to determine the facts and if it fits the law and if, it's okay.
Okay, so then what, Farmer Jones talks to me and says something to me. To him, his life is a fact. What he lives every day is a fact. I come here and I try to portray that fact.
Right.
But his fact isn't backed by the comp plan or any codes. So
right,
even if Farmer Jones got something to say, the guy behind the deli counter's got something to say, it really doesn't mean anything because it doesn't comply with what I have to weigh and consider.
Well, based on the rules that we're talking about tonight, that I'm talking to you about, this would enable you to do something you have not been able to do before, and that is to go talk to Farmer Jones, disclose his name on the record, and everyone can think about what Farmer Jones said, even though he can't come, So this increases your flexibility in how you do your job if you choose that you want to when the council agrees.
And I think that to go along with that, you just brought up a good point, that if we're having a conversation with someone who may not be a subject matter expert, but is in their mind, they have knowledge to share or information to give about a particular location or a particular project, as a commissioner, we can let them know, as we would any other neighbor, person we go to church with, person we're sitting next to at the restaurant, hey, Planning and Zoning Commission meets the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30 in City Hall. This item will be on a future agenda. Go to the city clerk's website and watch for it and come and speak. You have 3 minutes that you can speak on this issue, and you can speak for yourself to the commissioners and to the audience and to the public, and then also go to the city council. And so I don't want to diminish what their words can be, because their words can still be very powerful. It just may not be something that as a commissioner we have as expert testimony or data to be able to approve or deny an approval in a quasi-judicial way.
I mean, I think that's right, and I, as your lawyer, kind of like this potential change because I think it helps. Well, it increases your flexibility, but it decreases the ways in which you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
So I like it because it reduces liability.
Right, it reduces liability, but at the same time, and you just hit the nail on the head, I could talk to 17 people, get them all here, tell them to show up, and it doesn't mean anything. Because what are you looking at me for that way? It doesn't mean anything.
What do you mean?
You've got 17 people that may have just attested to something in their neighborhood that, I said, look, not for anything, you got a planning and zoning meeting coming up, you got a city council meeting, come be part of it. People need to hear what you got to say. But in the long run, what's going to weigh, that may weigh a little bit, but that subject matter expert, that plan that we're looking at is what you've got to gauge it on.
Well, not anymore. I mean, if this rule, if it does pass, I mean, I'm not saying you would, but you now have the ability to go out and consult a subject matter expert. And let me give you an example.
Say that again. I have the ability to consult a subject matter expert.
Yes, based on this rule, if it's changed. Here's what
Based on the rule change.
Right.
So I could find myself a subject matter expert that's going to come up here and say for 3 minutes that what's on this agenda is not going to work.
And let me give you an example.
Please do.
So, for example, I think, and I'm just spitballing with you, but I've heard a lot of concerns over the years about traffic studies. And developers come, they get traffic studies, and there's at least one member of the city council I know who, I think at the last meeting she called it pseudoscience or something, something like that. And my response to her was, well, usually if there's an opposition, someone else comes with their own traffic study, and then you have dueling traffic. but I've never seen it since I've been here as a city attorney in Clermont. So people are not going out and getting opposing subject matter expert opinions. Now you could consult one, and if you wanted, I mean, they cost money, right? But you could do it. Maybe someone does it pro bono, as long as it's made a part of the record. It's okay.
I got to tell you, that's one of the reasons why he asked you, and I wasn't belittling you. Please don't take it that way of how long you've been here, because there was a project on Hartwood Marsh with an assisted living, and the residents pretty much were hiring their own traffic study. All right, because what we saw was ridiculous. Okay, and see, I got to praise Commissioner Sedona, because he's taking classes. When I first joined the planning and zoning, all right, I followed what the city council did. And trust me, like 8 years ago, they pretty much says, I want to disclose, I went to the site, I want to disclose, I spoke with the neighbors, this and that. And that's why I was very, very shocked when you said, nope, you guys, planning and zoning can't do that. And I was like, even when your predecessor, Manzares, told me I couldn't do it, me and him, we bumped heads. I said, well, if I can't do it, then the city council better not be saying that up there in front of you and you keeping your mouth shut. All right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. All right? And that's why I want to praise you. I want to thank you for bringing this up to our attention, and thank you very much. I thought it was something completely different, so I'm going to give you an apology what I was thinking.
Okay.
Well, I certainly would give you consensus to move forward. Can I, just looking at the commissioners, I'm seeing all heads shaking yes. So if you would please move forward with discussing that with manager's
And I'll
office
send you a copy of what I already
council.
have.
Yeah, I
and
mean, other
send
cities
us.
are doing it. Groveland has an expert
Lake County does it.
communication section. They have Lake County.
Yeah.
Miami does. I mean, there's so many cities.
It's
We
time.
should start.
Yes.
I feel
And
like
I
I'm in Norfolk.
Liability.
Yep, I think that this is, this allows us the opportunities to get more information and have more information be brought into the record and be transparent about how and when and where we get that information so that it doesn't cloud anything even potentially. So thank you very much for that. Did you have anything else for us on that item?
I didn't, thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, just one,
Yes.
based on what you just said. So it would behoove me better to have the folks here speak than me actually say, I spoke to 5 people and this is what they said. That doesn't carry the weight as opposed to Farmer Brown coming
The
up to
lawyerly answer, okay, I'm sorry.
Go for
It's up to you. So I don't know what's better necessarily. What I can say is that right now, you relying on their commentary on a site visit is prejudicial. It's something that won't fly. But if they do show up and come, then it's okay. You know, you can listen to it.
Because they're here and it's on the
Correct.
record.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, any other discussion of non-agenda items?
I have one question. It goes back to sunshine. So if I'm in a, say for instance, I'm in a grocery store or I go to a lunch or something and there's somebody else there, well, what do? Do I turn around and go or, because I mean, there's luncheons that we might show up, a network event that we might show up and it's like, oh my God,
No,
what do I
it's
do?
okay. Yeah, it's okay. Very briefly, you know, if you are at Publix and you run into someone from P&Z there, it's perfectly fine to go up, talk to them. Totally fine. But the nature of your conversations can't be about anything that might appear in front of this board. You can talk about what the St. Louis Cardinals did last night. You can talk about the Rocket Lunch.
Commissioner
It's the
Bain and I
Cardinals,
serve on
hey.
serve
Are
on
you-
another board together, and we never.
No, I was just
we
wondering because,
never-
you know, some people might take it out of context. There's pictures,
Well,
you know, you
and
see.
that's
you
why a lot
you
of
gotta be
city
careful.
attorneys, what they will tell you is best practice is, you know, it really comes up in like public meetings so sometimes you'll be at some other like a JPA meeting or something and one of you wants to get up and make a comment, then really no one else should because it can almost be in the nature of a reply. You can always publish your positions like, you know, on the internet, for example. You can you can post your opinions about something that might come up before the board, but no one is allowed to respond to it on that same like
post.
Facebook post. So there's some nuance there, but you're okay.
Are there any opportunities to, if two members of the Planning and Zoning Commission we knew were going to attend, let's say a roundtable on JPAs, and both wanted to speak, could we notice that? And would that allow for that to occur?
It does.
Okay, so I think that there are some opportunities for us to work with city staff, and probably in that case the city clerk's office, to have them notice that there may be one or more members of the Planning and Zoning Commission at XYZ event at this location, time, date, etc. And then that way it's just out there. Yeah. Okay, great.
Wait, one more question, and I got to bring this up, all right, because it made Facebook. All right, we know the mayor has his Meet the Mayor, lunch with the mayor. All right, Todd has tea time with Todd. All right, for example, I'm going to use you for an example because you used me. I don't golf, but let's say I go to golf, and John goes to golf with Todd. Okay? Now, Todd brings something up regarding the city council that might come across our desk, because that always happens. He brings something, I gotta keep my mouth shut, right? Because that's the sunshine law, right? If
After Todd brings something up,
John brings something, right, yes, yes,
that's permissible.
right, he's permissible, but I'm not. Okay, so that's just like when you go to the mayor's luncheon, both of yous, okay? If one of you brings something up, just keep aware that that's violating the Florida Sunshine Law.
I am well aware of this.
I know you are. Oh, I know you are. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure because it was posted with both of your pictures in it.
Not at today's lunch.
And I didn't say
Okay,
today's. I'm
okay.
just saying.
I'm just
that
making sure.
There's pictures being going around.
Yeah.
And there's
I do
pictures-
attend.
I know you do, and so does Paula sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, just be careful.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good, Miss Paula. So this way you stay out of trouble like me. No, but you brought that to my attention. I didn't know about the posting on Facebook and internet. I didn't know about that, and I thank you for that. Because it makes sense what you're saying. It's just I didn't know that was violating the law. I thought it had to be more than, like there's 7 of us, or let's say if there's 5. More than 2 people speaking is considered a quorum or meeting up.
I'm kind of lost.
I'm
now.
getting confused with HOA. Maybe
Okay,
that's what I'm getting.
okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting confused with HOA. I'm sorry.
If we're at the same event, and we're speaking not representing planning and zoning, but we're speaking as Paula, the citizen constituent, how am I violating sunshine?
Well, so.
I'm not
first
talking
of
to
all,
him about
it-
an issue.
You may
I'm
not.
speaking on something that concerns me as a citizen, as a taxpayer.
Well, even if you were speaking as a
As a
PNC
citizen.
board member, but no, even if you were, it wouldn't be a violation of sunshine
Okay.
unless someone else from the P&Z board responded to what you
To what I said, okay.
So,
Right.
so it's not, and because members of the different boards can communicate. Like, for example, you and the mayor could talk about city business if you wanted at, what does it call it?
Lunch.
The luncheon, okay. So, the issue so let's give me another example, but let's say you bring up something that's not P&Z related, that will not come in front of the P&Z board. Something about, what's a good example? Well, it's been a topic, the RFP for city manager, something like that.
Okay.
That will never come in front of P&Z. So if someone else from P&Z was at the mayor's luncheon and y'all both talked about it, that's not a sunshine
Correct.
violation. That said, please, it's dicey, right? Yeah, and you never know what someone else might take away from a conversation. So, as city attorney, I always say as a best practice, withdraw. You know, if you're at an event like that and something like city business comes up, it is the better part of valor to not respond if it's from someone else on the board. One person can say it, but even so, it's just, we always recommend, you know, I used to be subject to sunshine when I was on the Orange County Charter Review Commission. And I was in meetings sometimes where there were other members, and when one of them would come up to the podium, I'd leave. Just so no one could ever say later, I'm not saying you have to, but I didn't want anyone saying that I was.
Well, it's just like how Vin said, if the three of us, if the mayor and two of us happen to bump into each other, and I'm standing there, and I'm now going to use you, and they have actually a conversation regarding something, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I can listen, but to your point, I got to walk away. Because I can't say, oh, by the
If it's
way,
P&Z
because now we have,
related.
right, because now we got a
Yeah.
problem.
If
So
it's
the best thing, if it is P and Z related and they're just even exchanging an opinion, it's best, like you just said, for me to walk away. Because as soon as I open my mouth, then I've got a problem, technically.
Or someone could
Yes.
say it, or someone from the public sees it, doesn't know what you're talking about, gets
Right.
alarmed, reports you. You know, I mean, that's...
Right, so walk away.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, because there's so many Facebook groups out there that post, you know, hey, I heard such and such is coming, or I saw that such and such is coming. It's probably just good on all of our part to be conscientious of liking, commenting, and putting it out there, because if there's 300 comments, which is not uncommon on some of these, that you may not be able to see that someone else from your commission also commented on that, and now that potentially creates a potential issue. And so ingesting the information, reading the information is one thing, putting it back out there, speaking, posting is the other.
I just brought it up because I saw the Facebook picture, so I was just, it's a concern, so that was just the reason. You just never know what the public's gonna think.
Yeah, well, and
So that's the only reason
that
why I
is
brought it
true, and that is absolutely true. And I mean, you could, if we live by if we live by the philosophy that you could always find somebody who's going to find an issue with everything we do, it goes back to the please some of the people some of the time, all of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all the time. You just have to be conscientious and careful about it, and always know that sunshine applies regardless of where you are, whether it's online or in a meeting.
I'm sorry, I got one last question. I'm sorry, I know it's late.
Is it on traffic?
No. You did correct me on review criteria. So, on the review criteria, 101-284, subsection 3, A, B, and C, my contention was that first agenda item, did not meet it. So I'm looking at those criteria to see if it meets that criteria. My point was, it's not meeting that criteria. Why wasn't that good enough?
I mean, I'm happy to discuss it privately, but the thing about it is that 101-284 only regards amendments to the comp plan and to the land development code. We were not dealing with that, period. So we were dealing with a CUP, you know, and so that's just a totally different code section with its own criteria. And the reason I normally wouldn't have said something, by the way, normally I would have said it privately instead, but if you make a decision predicated on the wrong code section, that could be something that we could be appealed on or challenged on. So I always want you to have the right basis in the record, even if you have to shift in midstream.
I will take a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
Second? Is there a
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Kramer, seconded by Mr. Nemec. All in favor say aye. Chair votes aye as well. Meeting is adjourned.